12 archaeological discoveries more shocking than Hollywood movies that left scientists stunned. Hello everyone, I'm thrilled to see you back on the Ancient History channel, the place where we uncover pages of history buried under the dust of time for thousands of years. Today, before we dive in, allow me to ask a quick question. Are you ready to embark on a journey into mysterious and puzzling stories? If you are, hold on tight, because this video will take us deep into the layers of soil where people once lived, fought, and quietly remained. You know, archaeology in recent years has been nothing short of an unopened treasure trove of strange tales. From unearthed treasures to suddenly revealed ancient structures, the most astonishing discoveries are often the ancient skeletons, silent witnesses carrying countless unanswered questions. Often, just brushing away a thin layer of soil can reveal a chilling, thrilling story that stretches far beyond our imagination. What excites me the most is this: every skeleton, every ancient tomb, every trace uncovered holds its own secret, a journey of life, and sometimes even a journey of death, that modern humans still cannot fully understand. But friends, the more mysterious the story, the more thrilling it is to explore, right? So, in today's video, I invite you to join me as we descend into deep excavation pits, listen to the whispers of history, examine the traces recently discovered by archaeologists, and decode what lies behind these bone witnesses, tombs, and ancient feats, and why all of it has remained hidden by time until now. Now, let's begin this journey with our first discovery. Forgotten mummy hidden for 14 years in a California garage. In the world of strange stories and unexpected discoveries, few would imagine that a mystery spanning centuries could be uncovered during something as ordinary as cleaning out a garage. Yet in 1980, in the town of Lemon Grove, California, exactly that happened. A woman, while opening an old cardboard box just to see if anything inside could still be used, screamed in horror when she came face to face with two small mummies, a teenage girl of about 15 and a baby around 1 year old. If you were in that situation, would you have been able to stand your ground? I'm certain I wouldn't. Terrified, she immediately called the police. When the Lemon Grove authorities arrived, they approached the scene as if it were a serious murder case. However, upon closer inspection, it became clear that this was unlike any modern homicide. On the contrary, the bodies had existed for hundreds, even thousands of years before being discovered, a result no one could have anticipated. From there, researchers got involved, and what they found was even more astonishing. The young girl had died at only 15 years old, while the baby was just learning to crawl and babble. Yet both bodies were remarkably well preserved. The girl's hair was still on her head, and the baby's ears and nose showed no signs of decay. Experts suggested that the dry desert climate, which rapidly dehydrates a body and inhibits bacterial growth, had naturally mummified the two without any embalming techniques. Their positions also intrigued scientists. Both were curled up, leaning against each other, almost as if they were sleeping. How they died, and for what reason, remains a mystery to this day. Carbon dating revealed that they had lived between 1040 and 1260 AD, but the next big question was even more puzzling. How did 2,000-year-old mummies end up in a garage in the United States? To answer this, police had to track every tiny clue, and eventually, the surprising truth emerged. It all began in 1966, 14 years before the cardboard box was opened. Two young men in California were passionate about archaeology and mummies. They had heard that indigenous tribes in northern Mexico often buried their dead in caves, where the natural climate would turn bodies into mummies. Determined, the two crossed into Chihuahua to search for themselves. They roamed the Rocky Mountains for over a month, exploring every crevice. Finally, luck smiled upon them. Deep in a cave, they discovered not one, but two mummies. Instead of notifying authorities, they secretly smuggled the bodies back to California, eventually leaving them in the garage of a girlfriend in Lemon Grove. But life had other plans. Before they could study or display the mummies, both young men were drafted into the Vietnam War. As the war dragged on, time passed, and the two mummies were completely forgotten in the garage for 14 years, lying there silently, unknown to anyone. When the men returned from the battlefield, they wanted to make amends by donating the mummies to the San Diego Museum of Man, renowned for its mummy collection. Ironically, they had no right to do so, as the bodies were never legally theirs to begin with. You see, this is a story that spans 1,000 years, crossing borders, wars, and human fate, as if the two mummies themselves were trying to tell us something. It's haunting, yet somehow also a little darkly humorous. Mysterious skeleton, assembled from the bones of 5 people challenges, Roman history and the Neolithic era. You know, in the world of archaeology, discovering ancient bones is not unusual, but the find in Pomerol, Belgium at the end of 2024 is an entirely different story. So perplexing that even scientists admitted they had never encountered anything like it. While excavating a cremation cemetery, researchers unexpectedly uncovered a skeleton that did not belong to a single individual. Instead, it was assembled from the bones of at least 5 people who had lived in completely different periods. The cemetery where the skeleton was found had been identified as Roman, dating to roughly the 2nd to 3rd centuries. AD, previous cremation graves in the area had all been carbon dated and matched that timeline perfectly. However, in this excavation, an unusually strange grave appeared, containing a body buried in the fetal position, a posture completely inconsistent with Roman burial rituals. Things became even more bizarre when archaeologists discovered a Roman-style bone pin near the skull, an artifact used only between 69 and 210 AD. At first glance, it seemed certain that the grave was Roman. But when bone samples were analyzed, the results left the research team stunned. The bones arranged in the fetal position dated back to the Neolithic period, around 7,000 to 3,000 BC. This means that this skeleton may have been in the ground thousands of years before Roman civilization even existed. Under the guidance of archaeologist Barbara Veselka from Vrije Universiteit Brussels, the team expanded their analysis, carbon dating, osteological examination, and ancient DNA sequencing. And the findings only grew more confusing. The bone pin indeed belonged to the Roman period, and the skull was that of a Roman woman who lived in the 3rd to 4th century AD, yet the bones forming the fetal position came from the Neolithic era, while the remaining bone fragments belonged to multiple other individuals. Together, they created a person who never truly existed. So the big question arises, why would the Romans assemble bones from multiple periods to create a single skeleton? One hypothesis suggests that during a cremation ritual, the Romans accidentally dug into a Neolithic grave. They might have taken the ancient bones and added a skull and pin to form a symbolic individual. Another, more compelling hypothesis is that the Romans deliberately used bones from people of different eras, arranging them into a single body for a special ritual, perhaps spiritual, superstitious, or intended to connect with those who had lived on that land before them. Of course, these remain hypotheses, and no one truly understands the purpose behind this act. But in my view, whether the skeleton was assembled at the end of the Neolithic period or during Roman times, one thing is clear. This was not a random act. It was intentional, purposeful, and likely part of a ritual that we no longer comprehend. What do you think? Is this an ancient ritual, a hidden message, or just a strange coincidence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. An 800-year-old tomb with a strange curse that terrified grave robbers. In the mysterious treasury of Chinese history, some stories spark both curiosity and chills, tales that remain haunting even after hundreds of years. Among these countless legends, an over 800-year-old tomb in Julong Cave, Hunan Province, is one of those mysteries that has gripped human imagination for generations. Local people believe that anyone who dares to approach this place with the intent to steal is bound to face disaster. Not just ordinary misfortune, but a catastrophic fate so terrible that no one dares to speak of it. The story begins in Mosheng Town, Gujiang County, Hunan, China, home to a Miao community that has lived there for centuries. At the peak of the towering Julong Mountain lies a system of 9 caves. One cave, in particular, contains mysterious coffins. No one knows whose they are or exactly when they were made. These coffins are carved from hollow Nanmu wood, a highly durable timber, and each weighs up to a ton. Despite the centuries, they remain intact as if they were placed there only recently. Of course, the eeriness of this place isn't just in the coffins hanging along the cliff walls, but also in the countless local legends passed down through generations. Villagers say that anyone who enters the cave with greedy intentions faces a chilling end. One of the most shocking tales is of a daring grave robber. He climbed into the cave hoping to find gold and treasures, but found only rocks and dust. Thinking he had escaped unscathed, he returned home. Yet just a few days later, he died suddenly under mysterious circumstances, leaving the entire village in utter shock. This incident only fueled the local fear. From that point on, villagers completely avoided the tomb, even taking longer routes to gather firewood. They believe that the curse has existed for centuries, and anyone who disturbs the sacred piece of the tomb will pay the price. It wasn't until the 1980s that archaeologists began exploring Julong Cave to uncover its secrets. They suspected that the coffins could belong to a Miao king, a figure who once profoundly influenced the spiritual and cultural life of the region. Discovering this cave opened valuable clues, helping to decode parts of the obscure history of the Miao people and other ethnic groups who once lived in southwest China. Further studies revealed that before the Miao settled here, the area had been inhabited by the Yao people. When the two communities merged, they continued the practice of cave burials, a tradition possibly dating back to the Neolithic period. This thrilled archaeologists as they were witnessing a living fossil of an extremely rare ancient burial ritual. Yet despite these discoveries, one major question remains. How did ancient people place coffins weighing up to several tons on the sheer cliff walls? Without pulleys, machinery, or modern technology, how did they manage it? To this day, this remains a mystery that no one has fully explained. Perhaps in the future, as archaeological technology advances, more secrets of Julong's ancient tombs will be revealed. But for now, the story of the 800-year-old curse and its mysterious coffins still sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears it, and I'm sure you, watching this video, are no exception. The 5,000-year-old skeleton of a drowned fisherman. In a land that seems to hold nothing but sand and wind, the coastal region of Copacabana along the Atacama Desert, considered one of the driest places in the world, lies a story buried for 5,000 years. In March 2022, scientists accidentally unearthed this story when they discovered a collective burial pit containing 4 skeletons, including that of a man from the Neolithic period. To put it simply, this was a man who lived half a millennium before the Egyptian pyramids were built. Analysis shows that he died between the ages of 35 and 45. He stood about 5 feet 3 inches tall, but the marks on his bones reveal that he had been a hard-working laborer, facing the ocean's waves and storms throughout his life. Researchers found evidence of joint degeneration in his back and elbows, a common sign of someone who spent a lifetime rowing, pulling nets, and performing physically demanding tasks every day. The back of his skull shows healed injuries, indicating he had experienced violent impacts but survived. His teeth and jaw are heavily stained with tartar buildup and show signs of periodontal disease and abscesses, conditions typical for people who regularly consumed raw seafood. Even more striking, damage around his eye sockets suggests iron deficiency, likely caused by parasites from marine animals. Taken together, these clues strongly indicate he was a true fisherman. From rowing and fishing to squatting while collecting shells, all these daily activities left clear marks on his skeleton. When experts pieced these fragments together, their first hypothesis was that he probably drowned while trying to make a living. A strong wave, a momentary misstep, or a sudden whirlpool. Any of these could claim the life of even an experienced seafarer. However, that evidence alone wasn't enough to conclude the cause of death. Scientists, along with forensic specialists, continued to examine each bone carefully in search of definitive answers. Unfortunately, no soft tissue remained, making it much harder to determine exactly how he died. Another hypothesis emerged. Perhaps his death wasn't an individual accident, but the result of a natural disaster. Geological data from Chile's coastal region indicate that the area experienced massive tsunamis around 5,000 years ago. This possibility is especially striking given the unusual damage on the skeleton. The shoulder joint was missing, the neck had been replaced by shells, and the rib cage was shattered. These injuries could result from a body being swept away by waves and tossed onto the shore after submersion. In the end, scientists settled on the most plausible explanation. The man most likely died in a fishing accident, a tragic but familiar fate for people who relied on the sea thousands of years ago. So, what is the truth? This remains a question that continues to puzzle researchers, and we may have to wait for further discoveries before we have a complete answer. But this is exactly what makes the Neolithic period so fascinating. From finely crafted stone tools and extraordinary architecture to skeletons carrying chilling stories, each discovery opens a new window into humanity's origins. The 5,000-year-old skeleton of this fisherman is one such window, silent, mysterious, yet compelling, prompting the scientific world to ask, do we really know enough about our ancestors? The dinosaur fossil that resembles an armored tank. If there's a dinosaur species that could leave scientists absolutely awestruck with its cool factor, Borealopelta markmicheli would surely be at the top of the list. Imagine a massive creature, armored like steel, its bulky body comparable to an ancient Humvee, yet capable of camouflaging so effectively it could vanish right before a predator's eyes. Sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? But that's exactly what researchers discovered from this fossil, considered the best preserved armored dinosaur specimen in history. The story begins in Alberta, Canada, where 6 years ago, a construction worker operating an excavator accidentally uncovered this colossal fossil. At the time, no one realized they had stumbled upon a 110-million-year-old treasure. Once carefully excavated and processed, experts discovered that the entire front portion of the dinosaur's body skin was perfectly preserved. It sounds almost unbelievable, but according to researcher Caleb Brown from the Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology, finding a fossil that retains intact skin structure is nearly miraculous. Most dinosaur remains are reduced to fragmented bones or small, fragile pieces. Yet here, they had a complete suit of armor. What makes Borealopelta even more remarkable isn't just its impressive size, but the unique scale patterns unlike any other armored dinosaur. Using spectroscopic analysis on the fossilized skin, scientists discovered that each armored scale contained melanin, a pigment responsible for the dark coloration of the body. Even more fascinating, the dinosaur's back was darker than its belly. It may sound simple, but in biology, this is an extremely effective camouflage strategy known as countershading. This mechanism allows an animal to blend into natural light. A darker back prevents detection from above, while a lighter belly reduces shadows when viewed from below. This natural camouflage is strikingly similar to modern animals like killer whales or deer. Researcher Jakob Vinther notes that while animal coloration usually serves functions like communication, thermoregulation, or sex differentiation, in Borealopelta, the pigments played a key role in evading predators. Ironically, this dinosaur already had heavy, steel-like armor capable of withstanding attacks from many predators of its time, but its tank-like bulk made it slow, limiting its ability to flee. That's why camouflage became its essential survival strategy, allowing Borealopelta to endure the dangers of the Cretaceous period. Thanks to the extraordinary fossil preservation, scientists were able to reconstruct a detailed 3D model of its armor, from each scale and spike to the texture of its skin. Observing such detail is like looking back 110 million years in time, witnessing how this creature once moved and thrived. Today, this rare fossil is on display at the Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology, becoming one of the most vivid treasures of the Cretaceous era ever discovered. It's almost unbelievable that an animal as massive as a tank, with armor as thick as metal, could be both fierce and exquisitely adapted for hiding in plain sight. The Crystal Pyramid at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle, a new clue to the terrifying disappearances. When the Bermuda Triangle is mentioned, many of you probably shiver at the thought of a mysterious stretch of ocean where airplanes and ships vanish without a trace. For decades, this area has been the focus of countless chilling stories, conspiracy theories, and unsolved mysteries. What makes the Bermuda Triangle even more enigmatic is the hypothesis of a gigantic crystal pyramid lying deep beneath the sea, believed by some to be directly connected to the strange disappearances. This story first made headlines in 2012 when a team of researchers claimed to have discovered a pyramid-shaped structure about 10 feet below the water's surface, right in the heart of the Bermuda Triangle. According to them, the structure is approximately 2,000 years old, made entirely of crystal and 3 times the size of Egypt's famous Great Pyramid of Cheops. Those numbers alone are jaw-dropping. The pyramid's base measures nearly 984 feet, with a height of about 656 feet, and from foundation to peak, it reaches roughly 328 feet. If true, this would be a structure far beyond what any ancient civilization could have imagined. Dr. Meyer Verlag, the leader of the research team, did not hesitate to claim that the pyramid may have been constructed using a technology that modern science still cannot explain. He believes that inside this mysterious structure lies significant information, possibly even the key to solving the numerous unexplained vanishings of ships and airplanes in the Bermuda Triangle. Even more intriguing, Nigel Watson, author of UFO Investigations Manual, expressed particular interest in this discovery. He suggested that the crystal components of the pyramid could generate a mysterious type of energy, potentially affecting the local magnetic field. And if you've ever heard stories of compasses spinning wildly or navigation instruments suddenly malfunctioning in the Bermuda Triangle, this hypothesis doesn't seem far-fetched at all. Watson believes that this invisible energy could be one factor behind the countless vessels that seemingly disappeared without a trace. But as you know, science requires solid evidence. So far, there are no official records, photos, videos, or precise coordinates of the Crystal Pyramid publicly available. This has led many to suspect that the story might be a fabrication designed to attract attention. Some experts even go so far as to suggest it's likely just a publicity stunt. Even if we set aside the Crystal Pyramid hypothesis, the Bermuda Triangle is still an extraordinary and hazardous stretch of sea. Located in the northwest Atlantic Ocean and defined by 3 points, Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and a location near Melbourne, the region has been dubbed the Devil's Triangle for centuries. From 1851 to the present, more than 8,127 people have reportedly gone missing here, a number chilling enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. On top of that, the area is known for unstable magnetic fields that can severely disrupt compass readings. Add to this the frequent summer waterspouts, with winds reaching up to 118 miles per hour, more than enough to overturn a small aircraft. All of these factors combine to make the Bermuda Triangle mysterious, dangerous, and irresistibly fascinating, especially whenever a new theory emerges. So, what do you think? Could a massive crystal pyramid really lie at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle, emitting an unknown energy? Or is it just a story exaggerated to enhance the mystery of an already infamous stretch of ocean? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss. Human remains in a Danish bog reveal a chilling 5,000-year-old sacrificial ritual. In the peaceful landscapes of Zealand, Denmark, where fields stretch endlessly and quiet bogs seem to conceal hidden secrets, a team of experts from the Roskilde Museum stumbled upon a chilling discovery during what seemed like a routine survey. They unearthed traces of an ancient ritual that took place an astonishing 5,000 years ago. The story told by these fragments of bone is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. At first, the archaeologists only found a few scattered body parts, a thigh bone, a lower jaw with some teeth still intact, as well as a leg and pelvic bones partially buried in the dark mud of a bog near the town of Stenløse. What initially appeared to be an ordinary skeleton lost to time soon revealed more when the team dug deeper. They discovered a flint axe and animal bones lying nearby. These details combined to create a haunting scene, a sacrificial ritual carried out right at this location during the Neolithic period, roughly between 10,000 and 2,200 BCE. What drew particular attention from specialists was the nature of the individual's death. It did not resemble an accident. There were no signs of drowning in a river, falling into the bog, or accidental burial. All the evidence pointed to a deliberate act. This person was a victim of a sacrificial ritual. Although the archaeologists could not yet determine the individual's sex or age, they believe this person was intentionally placed in the bog alongside ritual offerings and sacred items, a tradition widely practiced in many ancient cultures. For Neolithic communities, bogs were more than natural landscapes. They were seen as liminal spaces connecting humans with the divine. People believed that offering humans and animals to the bog could bring blessings, ensure bountiful harvests, or ward off misfortune. This explains why numerous sacrificial pits have been found throughout northern Europe, often combining human remains, animal bones, and stone tools. Archaeologist Emil Winther Struve shared his reaction upon first seeing the bones emerge from the mud. Even at a glance, we knew this wasn't an ordinary find. Neolithic bog bodies are incredibly rare, and rare finds like these always carry special significance. And indeed, bog bodies are treasure troves of information about ancient life. They reveal not only how people lived, but also how they understood and interacted with the spiritual world. Some of the most famous discoveries include Kolbjerg Maan, believed to be the world's oldest bog body, over 10,000 years old, and Toland Man, found nearly intact in the 1950s and dated to around 400 BCE. These findings share a common story. Ancient people performed sacrificial rituals with remarkable care, precision, and reverence. The new discovery in Stenløse adds another intriguing piece to the puzzle of ancient beliefs. Every bone fragment, every stone tool, every trace left in the bog is a message from the past. When we piece it all together, we begin to understand that their world, even 5,000 years ago, was filled with mysteries and depth comparable to the grand civilizations we still admire today. Lavish Viking graves reveal secrets of power under King Harald Bluetooth. In the peaceful countryside of Denmark, an archaeological discovery is sending shockwaves around the world. Archaeologists have successfully excavated 30 Viking-era graves at Lisbjerg, near the city of Aarhus. This discovery not only brings to life pages of history that have been silent for over a millennium, but also raises intriguing questions about a dazzling yet mysterious period in Northern European history. According to experts from the Mosgard Museum, these graves likely belong to a noble lineage that served under King Harald Bluetooth, the legendary ruler who united Denmark and Norway in the 10th century. The opulence and variety of grave goods found at the site, from coins and pearls to exquisitely crafted pottery, indicate that these were not the resting places of ordinary people. Instead, they whisper stories from the past about the wealth, influence, and lifestyle of an elite class that played crucial roles in Viking political, economic, and religious life. What astonished archaeologists most was how different this site is compared to typical Viking graves, which are rare to begin with and, when found, usually contain very few grave goods. Discovering such a large number of valuable artifacts in a single cemetery is extremely rare. According to lead archaeologist Liv Stidsing Reher Langberg, this suggests a clearly stratified social system that existed more than 1,000 years ago. The geographical location of Lisbjerg, near an old Viking farm believed to have been the residence of a regional chieftain, further supports the idea that this cemetery was the burial ground for a noble family serving alongside King Harald Bluetooth. One of the most remarkable graves belonged to a woman, buried with numerous personal items, including jewelry, sewing needles, and scissors. These objects not only held material value, but also told a story about the roles of women in Viking society, often overshadowed by male warriors. Every artifact uncovered here is like a piece of a historical puzzle coming together, illustrating how Vikings organized their society, practiced religion, and expressed power through burial rituals. Experts believe this cemetery could be a breakthrough in understanding the lives of the Viking elite, individuals who were both extensions of royal authority and symbols of local power. In this context, King Harald Bluetooth is not just a historical figure whose name is now associated with modern wireless technology. He also symbolizes unity, innovation, and the exercise of authority during a turbulent period in European history. These graves, lying quietly beneath the earth for centuries, have suddenly become vivid witnesses, helping the modern world understand a past that was powerful, mysterious, and undeniably awe-inspiring. 12,000-year-old merman fossil in Yugoslavia. When we think of mermaids, most people immediately picture the beautiful fairy tale character from Hans Christian Andersen's stories, a tale that has enchanted generations of children. But what if I told you that mermaids were not just products of imagination, but once really existed on Earth? Would you believe it? In 1991, scientists excavated the first fully intact fossil of a half-human, half-fish creature. From that moment on, the legend of the mermaid stepped out of fairy tales and became a stunning reality. This extraordinary fossil was discovered embedded in a limestone outcrop along the coast of Yugoslavia, near the city of Šibenik, Croatia. What amazed researchers was that the body was preserved almost perfectly. From the head to the waist, it had the shape of a human, with 2 strong arms and a large, normally developed head. But don't be fooled by its human appearance. Sharp claws grew from its hands. The jaw was built for attacking and tearing flesh, and razor-sharp fangs were firmly anchored to the jawbone, making this creature one of the deadliest predators of the sea. Scientists believe this fossil belonged to a female merman that ruled the ocean about 12,000 years ago. It likely died during an underwater landslide and was gradually encased in limestone, preserving its form across millennia. This means that the image of the beautiful fairy tale mermaid is far from reality. Real mermaids were fierce predators capable of taking down marine creatures and even unlucky sailors, similar to sharks. Measuring approximately 5 feet 3 inches in length, the fossil provides astonishing details. Eyes without eyelashes, sharp claws, and a powerful jaw. Looking at it, you see a creature completely different from the imagined mermaid. Rough, terrifying, but perfectly adapted for its role as an underwater hunter. Researchers emphasize that, although this fossil is ugly and fearsome, it does not necessarily represent the entire species. Like humans, there may have been multiple races of mermaids with different shapes and sizes. This makes sense, especially since mermaid legends exist all over the world, from Europe and Asia to the Americas, not just in one specific sea. Every detail of the fossil is a crucial piece of the puzzle, helping us understand the life of this half-human, half-fish creature. From its muscular body to its sharp jaws and fangs, it was clearly a formidable predator, not the gentle, delicate being of fairy tales. The discovery also raises intriguing questions. Did mermaids interact with humans? Did they live long enough to form populations like humans? And most importantly, could mermaid legends around the world be based on real creatures that once existed? This 12,000-year-old merman fossil is vivid proof that sometimes legends are not purely fictional. They may be inspired by real creatures that once ruled the oceans. It shows us that the past still holds countless mysteries, and what we once thought existed only in imagination may have been real. Have you ever imagined that beneath the ocean, secrets still lie waiting to be discovered? Half-human, half-fish creatures that once roamed the seas, unknown to humanity? I, for one, fully believe they exist. 5,000-year-old ancient homosexual skeleton reveals a life and death full of questions from the Stone Age. Archaeologists have just announced a discovery that has stunned the research community: the unearthing of a unique skeleton on the outskirts of Prague, Czech Republic. This skeleton belonged to a man who lived at the end of the Stone Age, roughly between 2,900 and 2,500 BCE. But what makes this discovery remarkable is not just its age, it is the mysteries surrounding his burial ritual. The first detail that caught scientists' attention was the orientation of the burial. This man was laid to rest with his head facing east, a position usually reserved for women's graves in the region. Not only that, water vessels, items typically found only in female burials, were placed near him. Immediately, a major question arose. Could this indicate a unique gender identity, or was it simply an unusual funerary practice never seen before? There's more. He was buried lying on his left side, facing west, a posture that archaeologists consider entirely atypical for men of the Stone Age. Compared with conventional burial customs, the differences are striking. During that period, ancient women were usually buried with necklaces made of teeth, domestic animals, bronze earrings, water vessels, or egg-shaped containers placed near their feet. In contrast, men were typically buried with weapons, flint axes and knives, and a small amount of food to accompany them into the afterlife. With such clear-cut norms, there is no reason to assume that the differences in this man's grave were merely coincidental. Researcher Kamila Vesenova from the Czech Republic even suggested that this might be the remains of a man with a different sexual orientation, possibly homosexual, transgender, or a man disguised in women's clothing. She referenced previous discoveries, such as a Mesolithic female warrior buried according to male rites, or Siberian shamans and Stone Age healer practitioners buried with valuable grave goods corresponding to their social status. Yet, the Prague grave remains unique, as it does not fully coincide with any previously documented unusual burial. Imagine the moment archaeologists first laid eyes on this skeleton. Confusion, curiosity, and gradually excitement as they realized they were witnessing a story of human history that few have known. Every detail, from burial posture, head orientation, to the surrounding artifacts, raises profound questions. What was this man's life like? How did he live within his community, and was his gender identity recognized or forced to remain hidden? This discovery not only opens up new hypotheses about gender and social structures in the Stone Age, but also reminds us that humans have lived diverse and complex lives for thousands of years. It emphasizes that history is not only about tools, weapons, or dates, but also about people, emotions, relationships, and unsolved mysteries. By carefully observing every small detail, one realizes that history is truly a colorful story, where even death can reveal secrets about life, and the unusual skeleton in Prague stands as evidence that, even in the Stone Age, there were people who dared to live differently, leaving an unforgettable mark for future generations. 1,700-year-old ghost ship with nearly intact cargo. Beneath the deep blue waters of the Mediterranean, where sunlight barely reaches the seafloor, a mystery that has slept for more than 1,600 years has finally been awakened. It is the wreck of an ancient Roman ship, a true ghost ship that sank in the 4th century AD, but remarkably, its cargo remains almost perfectly preserved. The excavation took place off the coast of Majorca, part of the Balearic Islands, revealing hundreds of amphorae, ancient ceramic jars with bulbous bodies and 2 handles, traditionally used to transport food and liquids in the ancient world. What stunned scientists even more was the discovery of a completely new type of amphora, never before seen anywhere in the world. Under the leadership of Dr. Miguel Ángel Cao Ontiveros from the University of Barcelona, the research team named this new type ses fontanelles. Unlike any known amphora, ses fontanelles were larger, heavier, and specifically designed to hold a substantial quantity of vegetable oil, a highly valuable commodity in the ancient economy. The researchers identified and classified 4 groups of amphorae aboard the ship. The most common was Almagro 51C, typically used for storing fermented anchovy sauce, a popular Roman condiment very similar to modern fish sauce. There were also flat-bottomed amphorae for fruit, Kie 19th amphorae for oil, and of course, the new SS Fontanelles type. What made the find especially remarkable was the presence of ancient inscriptions known as tituli picti on many amphorae. These handwritten markings acted as labels, providing not only the contents of the vessels, but also information about the place of origin, destination, and even the owner's name. Thanks to these inscriptions, the identity of the person behind the ghost ship was revealed. A man named Alunius et Ausonius, likely a wealthy merchant who owned a fleet of trading ships operating across the Mediterranean. This discovery is far more than just the recovery of an ancient cargo ship. It opens a window into the world of Roman commerce, transportation, and even pottery production. The discovery of a completely new type of amphora suggests the possible existence of a previously unknown pottery workshop, producing distinctive styles separate from the traditional pottery centers of the period. Archaeologists hope to trace the manufacturing techniques and raw materials to locate the precise site of this mysterious production hub, thereby filling in another piece of the ancient Mediterranean trade map. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect is the exceptional preservation of these artifacts. Despite resting at the seabed for centuries, most of the amphorae remain intact, with minimal breakage or decay. Researchers believe this is due to careful padding with dried grape leaves, a natural shock-absorbing material, combined with the unique seafloor conditions off Majorca, where low currents and limited oxygen created the perfect environment for long-term preservation. These findings demonstrate that the Mediterranean was not only the cradle of numerous ancient civilizations, but also a gold mine for underwater archaeology. Ghost ships like this, buried over time, may hold the key to countless mysteries about the life, trade, and culture of humanity in the past. And who knows, beneath the deep layers of sand, more treasures may still be waiting to be uncovered. A 2,800-year-old royal tomb reveals clues about King Midas. During an excavation in the ancient city of Gordion, located southwest of Ankara, Turkey, archaeologists have uncovered a royal tomb dating back to the 8th century BCE. According to experts, this approximately 2,800-year-old tomb belonged to a relative of King Midas, the legendary ruler of the ancient Phrygian kingdom. Inside the royal tomb, dozens of rare artifacts were buried alongside the cremated remains of the deceased. Mehmet Nuri Ersoy, Turkey's Minister of Culture and Tourism, stated at a press conference, "Based on the artifacts we have found, we predict that the tomb's occupant may have been a member of the royal family connected to Gordion and King Midas." Gordion served as the capital of the Phrygian kingdom, which existed from 1200 BCE to 675 BCE. In the 8th century BCE, Phrygia was ruled by Gordius. After Gordius passed away, his son Midas ascended the throne. King Midas is famously remembered for the legend that anything he touched would turn to gold. Like many ancient cities, Gordion was occupied multiple times throughout history. Excavations there have revealed city walls, tombs, and houses dating back thousands of years. The newly discovered tomb is the 47th burial mound excavated at Gordion. The tomb mound stands approximately 26 feet tall and has a diameter of about 197 feet. Archaeologist Yücel Şenyurt, co-director of the Gordion excavation, explained that cremation was the traditional burial practice of the Phrygians. Therefore, an individual buried in Gordion would have been of high social status, not an ordinary person. Researchers speculate that the newly uncovered tomb may belong to a relative of King Midas, as his own tomb was also found nearby. However, this is still an initial hypothesis, and experts will need more time to determine the exact identity of the tomb's occupant. 14 human skeletons in terrifying poses. Worse than horror movies. The skeleton in a forgotten jail cell in the heart of Paterson. Have you ever thought that in the middle of a bustling city where streetlights shine every night, a secret could remain buried for decades? If not, let today's video take you through a story that is both haunting and heartbreaking. The story of a skeleton discovered inside an abandoned building in Paterson, New Jersey. Once a busy police headquarters, the building now stands with its walls stained and worn by time. Yet inside it lies a truth that sends chills down anyone's spine. The building had been abandoned for over 35 years, ever since a fire in 1980. At the time, it had been used to hold criminals, a place that seemed to have closed the door on its past completely. But when the Greenbaum family, the current owners, prepared to sell the building, a horrifying discovery changed everything. While inspecting the old structure, they opened the area containing the jail cells and froze in shock. Right in the middle of a locked cell was a human skeleton. Not scattered bones, but a complete set of remains, lying as if the person had once been waiting for someone to open that door. What made the discovery even more terrifying was that the iron door had never been opened since the building was abandoned. Police immediately got involved, piecing together clues around the body. Near the skeleton, they found items aged and worn by time. An old bottle of water, a few yellowed prescription papers. These traces led to a heartbreaking hypothesis. This person may have lived in the cell for a long period, possibly up to 10 years, before eventually succumbing to exhaustion and dying in utter despair. At this point, you're probably asking yourself, how could someone end up in such a situation? The police suggested that the victim might have been homeless. Perhaps on a cold night, they found the abandoned building and saw it as a place of refuge. But tragically, upon entering the jail cell, the old iron door locked automatically, trapping them inside, with no one knowing and no one coming to help. Now imagine it, a cramped, dark space with no windows, no voices, just silence. A human being trapped between cold walls, day after day clinging to a faint hope, until life slowly slipped away in complete isolation. Just thinking about it is enough to send shivers down your spine. A 500-year-old skeleton found beneath London's sewer. If history often hides in the most unexpected places, then the recent discovery beneath a London sewer is living proof. During construction work on the drainage system in Bermondsey, right near the River Thames, workers unexpectedly uncovered an almost perfectly preserved human skeleton. What made everyone even more astonished was that the skeleton was dated to be around 500 years old, from the medieval period, a time when every discovery carries a long, untold story. The skeleton was found lying face down, as if the man had fallen at the exact spot where he took his last breath. This posture immediately sparked the curiosity of archaeologists, who asked themselves, what happened to him? Why was he lying in such an unusual position? And who was he during a time of great upheaval in England? To answer these questions, archaeologists began a detailed analysis of the remains and determined that the skeleton belonged to a man around 35 years old. But what made this discovery truly remarkable was not his age, but the tall leather boots he was still wearing. In the medieval period, footwear typically reached only up to the ankle, so finding boots this high was almost unprecedented, and experts realized they were looking at something extremely rare in past excavations. Beth Richardson, a specialist at MOLA, noted that the boots were more than just personal items. They offered clues about the man's life in the late 15th or early 16th century. She explained that she had never seen boots of this height before, suggesting that the man's work likely required protecting his feet while standing for long periods in wet, muddy, or cold conditions. From this, archaeologists hypothesized that he could have been a fisherman, a sailor, or even someone who dredged mud along the Thames searching for valuable objects. These occupations were closely tied to the river, and in the medieval period, the Thames was far from gentle. Its strong currents could sweep a person away in seconds, making the idea that the man died while working by the river very plausible. Interestingly, the skeleton showed no signs of serious injury. There were no cuts, no bruises, no evidence of a struggle. His death was likely sudden, silent, and left no mark. Over time, the river and mud may have buried him, preserving his body almost exactly as it was found by archaeologists today. This discovery occurred within the Tideway Sewer Project, a £4.2 billion initiative aimed at improving London's wastewater system. Ironically, while building a structure for the future, workers uncovered the remnants of a life from centuries past. Yet despite this, the reasons why the man was lying face down and why his body ended up in that exact location remain a mystery. We may never know the full story, but every clue, from his posture to his leather boots, helps shed light on the lives of medieval people who faced danger daily just to survive. And you? What do you think? Who was this man, and what story brought him to his quiet end along the Thames? Try to imagine. Sometimes it is your imagination that can bring history vividly to life. 7 blood-red skeletons, 2,500 years old, reveal China's mysterious burial customs. Did you know that in 2016, at the Jinsha Archaeological Site in Qingyang District, Chengdu, Sichuan Province, Chinese archaeologists made a discovery that stunned the entire research community? They uncovered 7 ancient tombs containing skeletons that were blood-red in color. Just hearing that might send shivers down your spine. But the real fascination lies in the fact that this strange red color is actually the key to unlocking a mysterious cultural story. If you've studied Chinese archaeology, you probably know that Jinsha is no ordinary site. It was one of the major cultural centers along the upper Yangtze River, existing from the 12th century BCE to the 7th century BCE. Discoveries here consistently provide invaluable insights into the lives, customs, and beliefs of the ancient people. And this time, 7 tombs from the Warring States period made archaeologists pause in awe. Each tomb had a unique shape and size, but what captured everyone's attention were the bright red skeletons inside. Not only that, these tombs contained rare burial objects such as swords, spears, and bronze artifacts, all symbols of power, status, and spiritual belief of the tomb owners. What amazed people the most, however, was the blood-red color covering the entire body. This red layer didn't just stop at the bones. It spread into the surrounding soil, creating a scene that was both brilliant and mysterious. The phenomenon was so unusual that experts had to spend a great deal of time examining and analyzing it. Eventually, they discovered that the red material was cinnabar, a mineral that humans have used for thousands of years. Cinnabar was not merely decorative, it held deep spiritual significance. Archaeologists believe that the ancient people applied cinnabar to the body to ensure rebirth after death, helping the deceased continue living in the afterlife. The red color, resembling blood, symbolized life, energy, and hope, a powerful belief in immortality and the cycles of life. Looking at these red skeletons, we not only witness extraordinary burial techniques, but also gain insight into how people of the Warring States period perceived death. They did not see death as an end, but as a transition, a continued journey of the soul. This belief inspired rituals that were both sophisticated and profound, which even after more than 2,500 years continue to amaze us today. That's why I boldly say that the discoveries at Jinsha not only expand our knowledge of ancient burial customs, but also spark curiosity about the thoughts, beliefs, and worldview of our ancestors regarding life and death. These vivid red skeletons, after millennia lying quietly beneath the earth, now tell a vivid story of a glorious era, of deep spiritual beliefs, and of humanity's yearning for eternity. I am certain that when you stand before these red skeletons, you will feel as though you've stepped through a time portal, seeing ancient souls and sensing their faith and hope in the other world. Perhaps it is precisely this magical connection between past and present that makes every archaeological discovery feel alive and deeply moving, don't you think? The red-haired giant skeleton in Lovelock Cave, Nevada. Every mountain and every stretch of land on Earth holds mysterious stories, but not every story comes with tangible evidence. However, the legend of giants in the Nevada desert is different. In a solitary cave deep within the arid mountains, there was said to exist a race of giants, at least according to the Paiute tribe, the indigenous people who lived around Humboldt Lake and the surrounding lands for more than 4,000 years. According to legend, in the early 20th century, guano miners were the first to discover the remains of these giant skeletons in and around Lovelock Cave. The Paiute tribe called these beings Site-Ka, or Tule Eaters. The skeletons weren't just over 7.9 feet tall, towering over the Paiute and any other local people, but they also had red hair, an extremely rare trait for that geographic region and ethnic group. During excavation, miners also found many man-made artifacts, though unfortunately many were destroyed, lost, or sold. Still, discoveries in and around Lovelock Cave left a massive archaeological treasure. Over 10,000 artifacts collected by archaeologists over many years, proving that this area had once been a thriving settlement. The cave also revealed signs of fire and smoke, indicating that the site had been home to a community engaged in daily living, hunting, and tool-making. But the most astonishing aspect remained the size and biological features of the Site-Ka. At over 7.9 feet tall, they were undoubtedly real giants, raising countless unanswered questions. Where did they come from? Why did they have unusual red hair? And what led to their extinction? Paiute legend tells that the Site-Ka were cruel beings, often setting traps, kidnapping, and harming local tribes. One day, however, they became trapped in Lovelock Cave and gradually perished. These folklore accounts, along with the archaeological evidence, have sparked endless debates among scholars and locals alike. Some archaeologists remain skeptical, suggesting that the giant skeletons may have been exaggerated or misinterpretations of normal human remains. Yet, local legends persist that the Site-Ka once ruled the land. The story of the red-haired giants in Lovelock Cave is not just a legend. It is a vivid testament to how humans preserve history through oral tradition. It sparks curiosity about a vanished civilization, extraordinary physical beings, and the mysteries science still cannot fully explain. Standing before Lovelock Cave today, you can imagine the giant skeletons buried beneath the earth, piles of fire ash, tools of daily life, and even remnants of red hair. All of it serves as a reminder that the past never truly sleeps, and every legend, no matter how strange, may begin with a seed of truth. To this day, the questions remain. Did the Site-Ka really exist? Where did they come from, and why did they become extinct? These are mysteries that have persisted for over a century. But as you can see, it is precisely these questions that make the secrets of Lovelock Cave so compelling, where the past and legend meet in the most remarkable way. The mysterious woman's skeleton on the 1,000-year-old Viking ghost ship on Senja Island. In every remote land, stories of the past often lie buried beneath layers of soil and rock, waiting for a chance hand to uncover them. Senja Island, located in northern Norway, is one such place. Here, archaeologists were recently presented with an unprecedented discovery, a Viking ship burial, also called a ghost ship, containing the skeleton of a mysterious woman who died over 1,000 years ago. Senja is far from an unknown territory. It once marked the northern boundary of the powerful Viking Empire, serving as a strategic fishing ground and a bustling trade hub for centuries. That is why the discovery of a noblewoman's ship burial on Senja in 2023, when local residents were expanding a garage, stunned the Arctic archaeological community and opened a journey into understanding the life, status, and mysteries surrounding this Viking woman. Interestingly, the first signs of the burial were not the ship itself, but two oval-shaped brooches and a few fragments of ribs peeking out from the soil. Seemingly small, these clues drew a team from the Arctic University Museum, who carefully excavated layer by layer to reveal a 17.7 feet long ghost ship, a dark imprint on the ground, like the shadow of a soul drifting across more than a millennium. Within that shadow lay the Viking woman's carefully interred skeleton. Beside her rested a loyal dog who had accompanied its owner to the afterlife, with no sign of sacrifice or coercion, a vivid testament to friendship and loyalty in Viking culture. The burial also contained numerous valuable grave goods, bone and amber beads, a round pendant, iron sickles, grindstones, and weaving tools made from whalebone. These items not only reflected her high social status, but also hinted at her occupation, suggesting she may have been a skilled weaver who contributed to the local economy around 900 to 950 AD. Her brooches, in particular, were more exquisite than any previously found, crafted with fine detail and silver inlay, indicating that only women of high social rank were buried with such a ceremonial display. Dr. Anja Roth-Niemi, who led the excavation team, emphasized that the ship burial was not merely a resting place, but a statement of identity, power, and value of the deceased. The research will continue with DNA analysis and skeletal studies to deepen understanding of the woman's true identity. Even from the remains uncovered so far, we can already imagine her life. A powerful Viking woman, living in a dynamic community, accompanied by a loyal companion and skilled in her craft, now continuing to tell her story through the layers of soil and archaeological evidence. The ship burial on Senja is not just an archaeological discovery, it is a whisper from history about a person who lived, loved, and wove her life together, and more than 1,000 years later, still commands attention, reflection, and awe. Each layer of soil opened is a living page of history, where past and present meet in this enigmatic Viking ghost ship. The skeletons of footless children from the Chimu civilization at an ancient temple in Peru. When people think of ancient civilizations in Peru, many immediately picture Machu Picchu or the vibrant pyramids of the Inca culture. But few know that in the Lambayeque region, there is an archaeological site called Chotuna Chornincap, with over 1,500 years of history, a place that once witnessed complex rituals and mysterious human stories. Recently, a team from the Peruvian Ministry of Culture shed new light on this enigmatic past when they discovered more than 13 skeletons dating back to the 15th and 16th centuries within the ruins of an ancient temple. Do you know what made archaeologists and history enthusiasts shiver? Among these skeletons were children missing their feet. While this may sound horrifying, it serves as vivid evidence of the complex sacrificial rituals once performed by the Chimu community. According to reports, the newly uncovered tombs belong to the Chimu civilization, which existed from 1100 to 1470 AD. 6 children were buried in pairs on the east, west, and north sides of the temple. Among them, 2 children buried on the west side had missing feet, sparking numerous hypotheses about their special role in religious ceremonies. The mysteries do not stop there. Beyond the children's skeletons, evidence of human sacrifice was also found among adults, including men and women who were buried in narrow, elongated pits. These findings invite reflection on the Chimu people's beliefs, religion, and understanding of the supernatural and the act of sacrifice. At the center of the cemetery, archaeologists discovered a particularly notable skeleton of a man buried alongside 2 clay vessels, one depicting a coquero, a coca leaf chewer, and the other showing a man standing and smiling. This creates a vivid yet haunting image of their daily life and spiritual beliefs. The Chotuna Chornincap Temple and Pyramid Complex also includes the tomb of a Chornincap nun from the 13th century, a woman who held a position of authority within Lambayeque culture. She was buried with 8 others, copper masks, elaborate jewelry, ceramic offerings, and a golden scepter engraved with the Lambayeque deity. These artifacts not only indicate her power and importance, but also reveal how the community organized rituals, honored deities, and conducted spiritual customs. Each discovery at Chotuna Chornincap acts as a piece of the puzzle, transporting us back in time to better understand the lives, beliefs, and even the chilling practices of ancient people. The footless children, the adult sacrifices, and the intricate ceremonial objects show that this temple was not merely a place of ordinary worship, but a religious center where divine power, human authority, and the fear of death were intertwined in complex ways. Standing among these ruins, one can feel the strange intersection of the past's silence and haunting stories, where every brick, every ceramic vessel, and every skeleton tells its own tale, a tale that only careful observation can partially reveal. Chotuna Chornincap is more than an archaeological site. It is a doorway to the past, prompting us to ask, how would we perceive human life, death, and belief if we could return hundreds of years ago? A 2,000-year-old blood-red skeleton from the Vesuvius catastrophe. When people talk about the most terrifying natural disasters in human history, the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD immediately comes to mind. In a single outburst of nature's fury, the ancient Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum, along with several surrounding towns, were completely buried. But few people realize that archaeologists digging in the volcanic soil have uncovered remains that are even more chilling than the famous plaster casts of Pompeii. The most striking of these is a vivid blood-red skeleton, nearly 2,000 years old. The skeleton belongs to a man who is around 40 to 45 years old, one of thousands of victims claimed by the Vesuvius disaster. Even today, the scene is haunting. Red-hot ash and rivers of lava swallowed everything in their path. People were frozen in place like living statues, some caught mid-flight, others still at work, many trapped inside their homes. Herculaneum, located right on the coast, was not spared either. It was there, on the ancient shoreline, that this extraordinary red skeleton was discovered. Experts believe the man was either desperately trying to escape the eruption or was a soldier who had come to rescue civilians. What makes these remains truly unique and downright eerie is their intense crimson color. That red doesn't come from paint, ceramics, or any artificial substance. It comes from the man's own blood. His death was horrific. While trying to flee, a collapsing wooden roof beam struck his head and shattered his skull. Moments later, the extreme heat from the pyroclastic surge and falling ash instantly entombed his body. The intense temperature boiled and then dried his blood, leaving it baked onto the bones like a natural, macabre dye. This blood-red skeleton is more than just gruesome evidence of a catastrophe. It opens a window into life and death in the ancient Roman world. It tells a story of pain, terror, and the faint glimmer of hope in a person's final seconds. You can almost feel the desperate human struggle against an unstoppable force of nature. The more you learn about Herculaneum, the clearer it becomes that this isn't just another archaeological site. Every skeleton and every artifact unearthed there carries its own silent story, like pages from a 2,000-year-old diary of the dead. This particular red skeleton stands alone in time, inspiring both horror and awe. It forces us to ask, if we had been standing on that beach in Herculaneum on that fateful day, would we have made it out? Or would we too have become part of the permanent memory under the volcanic ash? That's why the skeleton is so much more than an archaeological treasure. It also showcases the power of modern forensic science and medicine. Thanks to today's technology, researchers have been able to determine the man's age, sex, and exact cause of death, and even recreate the eruption in stunning 3D models. This is a remarkable intersection of history, science, and raw human emotion that lets us literally touch an event from almost 2 millennia ago without needing a time machine. When we look at that blood-red skeleton, we can't help but shudder. Yet we're also drawn into a story of survival, sacrifice, and the terrifying destructive power of nature. It reminds us that no matter how strong or advanced we become, we remain small and fragile in the face of the natural world. And it is precisely these preserved bones, these patches of dried crimson, that have etched an indelible chapter into history. One that still leaves the whole world speechless and chilled to the bone, doesn't it? The skeleton in the refrigerator in India. Would you believe me if I told you that in an abandoned house, left untouched for 2 decades, there was a mystery so chilling that it sent shivers through an entire community? Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet, on January 6th, Indian police revealed just such a shocking discovery in an abandoned home near Chotanekara in Ernakulam district. They found a human skeleton, including a skull and bones, strangely preserved inside a refrigerator. At this point, you can probably feel the eerie and unbelievable nature of the story, right? The house sits on a large private property, locked up and abandoned for many years. Its remote, deserted location meant almost no one paid attention. But it was precisely this abandonment that concealed a horrifying secret. When police from Chotanekara station received a tip, a team of experts and officers conducted a thorough search. What they found inside the quiet house was beyond their expectations. A skeleton lying inside a refrigerator, a scene both haunting and baffling. What intrigued and terrified people the most was why the skeleton had not been buried or discarded, but instead stored in a fridge. Who did this? Why? Who was the victim? And under what circumstances did they die? These questions remain unanswered, and it is this mystery that makes the case so sensational, capturing public attention. Local authorities have now launched a detailed investigation, meticulously examining the house and surrounding land to uncover any clues that might reveal the truth. Forensic experts and investigators are working to identify the victim, determine their age, sex, and time of death. But so far, information remains limited. It is this uncertainty that makes the story even more haunting, like a mystery time has yet to reveal. Looking at the images of the abandoned house, countless theories come to mind. Could this be an undiscovered murder? A case connected to superstition? Or a horrifying act meant to store a human skeleton in a refrigerator? All of this remains speculation, as no official evidence has been released. The crowned beauty's skeleton, over 1,000 years intact in an ancient Chinese tomb. The story began like any other ordinary workday at the foot of Turkey Mountain in Tongliao City, Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, China. A group of quarry workers, while moving stones, happened upon an unusual red rock. At first, no one realized it was the sign of a millennium-old mystery. Yet that very rock led archaeologists to an ancient tomb, where a woman wearing a golden crown had been laid to rest, a discovery that stunned the scholarly world. The tomb dates back to the Liao dynasty, roughly between 905 and 1125 AD. From the outside, it resembled nothing more than a stone house, about 98 feet long, buried over 33 feet beneath the ground. Inside, a cedar wood coffin appeared, modest in size but exuding solemnity. The coffin measured approximately 4.9 feet in height, 8.5 feet in width, and 8 inches in depth. When the lid was opened, experts were astonished. The woman's skeleton was remarkably well preserved, untouched by grave robbers for over 1,000 years. She lay on her back, a shimmering golden crown on her head, her body wrapped in thick silk fabric, resting on a faded metallic pillow. The coffin itself was adorned with intricately carved phoenixes, symbols of power and nobility. Through careful study, archaeologists determined that the woman had died between the ages of 30 and 35 and likely hailed from the royal family. Yet her identity remained a mystery. No artifacts or texts inside the tomb recorded her name, making it extremely difficult to confirm her lineage. However, based on historical context and surrounding artifacts, some experts speculated that she could be the daughter of Empress Shulu Ping, the wife of Emperor Taizu of Liao, the first emperor of the Khitan people in ancient China. To confirm this hypothesis, specialists conducted DNA testing, and the results were truly astonishing. The skeleton was indeed genetically related to Emperor Taizu of Liao. This meant that the crowned woman was Princess Yu Lu Du Ge, the emperor's sister, a figure previously known only from sparse historical records. This discovery is not just a milestone in archaeology, it also opens a vivid window into royal life during the Liao dynasty. Every layer of silk, every carving on the coffin, every chance-discovered red stone tells a story, inviting us on a journey into a past that spans over a millennium. Can you imagine it? A single red stone led to the unearthing of an ancient royal princess, lying silent beneath the earth for more than 1,000 years. What seemed like an ordinary moment became a doorway through time, connecting the present with mysteries long untold. This is precisely why archaeology is so captivating. In every layer of soil, beneath every stone, there is a story waiting to be discovered. A 6,000-year-old skeleton found intact at a construction site. At a construction site in Brazil, archaeologists discovered 2 human skeletons dating back as much as 6,000 years, remarkably well preserved. The skeletons were found along BR 470 in the municipality of Ilhota in Santa Catarina, Brazil, a location that was once an island in a lagoon and home to ancient tribes during prehistoric times. What makes this discovery particularly astonishing is the preservation of the skeletons, especially the skulls, legs, and teeth, providing scientists with a detailed view of life during that era. The discovery was made in May when construction workers were expanding the road. After being transported to the Beta Analytics Laboratory in Florida, the skeletons were dated to approximately 5,880 years ago. According to archaeologist Valdir Luiz Schwengber, who directed the excavation, the skeletons were buried only about 2 feet below the surface, suggesting that the area was isolated, lacking water, and unlikely to support long-term habitation. Therefore, scientists believe this site may have served as a burial ground for ancient peoples. Evidence collected from the site indicates that the ancient inhabitants primarily relied on river and lagoon resources for food. especially fish species such as catfish, flounder, and snapper. The small size of the fish suggests that they were mostly juveniles caught in shallow waters, offering important insight into the subsistence strategies of the region's ancient communities. The study also uncovered clues related to the Jiquabu tribes, one of the ancient groups living in Brazil around 10,000 years ago. These tribes were likely part of a migratory wave of hunters moving from Asia to the Americas via the Bering Strait, bringing with them specialized hunting and fishing techniques and distinct cultural practices. However, little is known about these cultures because they left no written records or permanent agricultural sites, and European colonization nearly obliterated their traditions. Currently, multidisciplinary researchers from fields including biology, archaeology, and history are continuing to study the skeletons to gain a deeper understanding of the ancient tribes' settlement and subsistence along the Santa Catarina coast. Some experts even suggest that this discovery could shed light on the lives of early Amazonian communities, where roughly 1,500 villages existed around 1,250 BCE, nearly two-thirds of which remain undiscovered. With the growing wealth of discoveries, there is hope that the site where the skeletons were found will be preserved and developed as an educational location, providing future generations with a profound understanding of the long and rich history of Brazil's indigenous peoples. A mountain of skeletons in a 5,000-year-old house in China. Archaeologists have recently uncovered 97 skeletons inside a small house dating back 5,000 years, located in an ancient village in northeastern China. Evidence suggests that the remains of both adults and children from prehistoric times were piled together inside the house before it was burned down. The archaeological site where the house was discovered, now known as Hamen Mangha, was established before written language appeared in the region, during a period when humans lived in small settlements, surviving through a combination of agriculture and hunting. In addition to the skeletons, archaeologists found numerous ancient pottery shards, grinding tools, arrowheads, and spear tips. These artifacts have provided valuable insights into the lifestyle of the ancient inhabitants. Hamen Mangha is considered the largest and most well-preserved prehistoric settlement in northeastern China. During an excavation that took place from April to November 2011, archaeologists identified the foundations of 29 houses. Most were simple, single-room structures with a single entrance and a fireplace. The house containing the skeletons, designated F40, measured just over 215 square feet. Archaeologists reported finding many skeletons scattered inside the house. Those located in the northwest corner were relatively intact, while skeletons in the east corner often consisted only of skulls, with few limb bones remaining. In the southern corner, leg and arm bones were stacked in layers up to 7.5 inches deep, forming a jumbled pile. At some point, the entire house was set on fire. The flames caused the wooden roof beams to collapse, burning and deforming some of the skulls and limb bones. However, many of the remaining skeletons survived the fire and have remained intact for 5,000 years, allowing scientists today to study them. So what happened to these people? A team of anthropologists at Jilin University in China is investigating the skeletons to determine the cause of death. Recently, the team published a report in the Jilin University Weekly, presenting their findings. According to the study, the people in the house appear to have died from a prehistoric disaster, possibly a disease, which resulted in their bodies being stacked together. It seems the number of deaths was so great and so rapid that the survivors could not bury them all. Archaeologists found that about half of the skeletons belonged to individuals aged 19 to 35, with no remains of older adults. The age range of these victims is similar to those discovered at other prehistoric mass burial sites, such as Miaozigu, also in northeastern China. This similarity suggests that the disaster at Hamen Mangha may have been caused by the same catastrophic event as those at Miaozigu, possibly a widespread epidemic at the time. Of course, this is still an initial hypothesis. The true cause of this prehistoric tragedy remains a significant mystery. 2,000-year-old children's remains found in burial jars. On November 22, 2024, a team of Chinese archaeologists made headlines in the scientific community when they announced the discovery of 128 children's remains, carefully buried in jars according to an ancient funerary ritual. This discovery took place in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, where experts not only unearthed the children's remains, but also found numerous coins, pottery, and floor tiles during the excavation. Archaeologists believe that these children lived during the Han Dynasty, which lasted from 202 BCE to 220 CE, a period when burial customs and funerary rituals were markedly different from those of today. During the Han period, ancient people did not cremate children. Instead, they used jars to inter their remains. According to the experts, some jars contained a single skeleton, while in other cases, multiple jars were used together to form a protective house that shielded the children's souls from the forces of nature. From a modern perspective, burying children in jars may seem unusual. However, researchers emphasize that this practice was not fundamentally different from the use of coffins in contemporary funerary customs. Lam Wenchong, a specialist at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, explained, "Cremation appeared relatively late in ancient China, especially after the Han Dynasty. Some burials were cremated as early as the Bronze Age, but in the Central Plains, this practice appeared much later. This helps explain why the children's remains were not cremated before being placed in the jars." There was also a practical reason why jar burials became widespread. Building a traditional Han-style tomb was a significant financial burden. In a society with high child mortality, constructing an elaborate tomb with multiple chambers filled with items for the afterlife, as was common during the Han period, was impossible for ordinary families. For poorer households, using jars was a practical and affordable alternative. Of course, jar burials were not unique to ancient China. In 2012, archaeologists in Tamil Nadu, southern India, discovered burial jars dating from 1800 to 1500 BCE, even earlier than the Inner Mongolia finds. In July 2024, experts in Budapest, Hungary, also uncovered urns containing cremated remains dated between 2200 and 1450 BCE, showing that this practice was not limited to China, but was present in multiple ancient cultures worldwide. These discoveries not only expand our understanding of ancient funerary rituals, but also spark curiosity about how past societies protected the souls of the deceased. If I told you that each jar contained not only human remains, but also a fragment of history and an untold story of children who passed away long ago, would you believe me? Or think I was exaggerating? Headless human remains. Archaeologists have unearthed human remains in a sacrificial pit at the Chaizhuang Archaeological Site in Jiuan, Henan Province, China. This burial pit dates back to the Shang Dynasty, between 1600 and 1046 BCE. What makes the discovery particularly remarkable is that the skeleton had been decapitated and buried in a kneeling position, facing north, with both arms crossed in front. The skeleton is relatively well preserved, arranged in a posture resembling the character Kan found in oracle bone inscriptions. Oracle bone script is an early form of Chinese writing, carved onto turtle shells and animal bones. It represents the earliest complete system of Chinese characters in the country. Studies of oracle bone inscriptions excavated at Yin ruins indicate that sacrificial rituals were widespread during the Shang Dynasty. Pictographs such as Shi, Tan, and Kan were used to describe different sacrificial practices. Specifically, Kan depicts the ritual sacrifice of humans, livestock, or poultry in burial pits. Most human sacrificial remains discovered to date have been found in a lying posture. However, based on the information in the oracle bone script, experts suggest that the Kan-style sacrifice, burial in a kneeling position, may have been a more common practice during that period. This is a detail that few people may know, and it is likely to surprise anyone learning about it. The remains of Marcus Secundio illuminate Pompeii's culture. In the world of archaeology, sometimes a discovery that seems small can shake the scholarly community, and the story of Marcus Venerius Secundio is a perfect example. At the Porta Sarno Cemetery in Italy, archaeologists recently unearthed the remains of a man around 60 years old. What astonished everyone was the near-perfect preservation of his skeleton. Not only were the bones intact, but traces of hair and even the ears remained on the skull, suggesting that partial embalming techniques were applied with remarkable skill. What makes this find even more intriguing is that the tomb dates to several decades before Pompeii was destroyed by Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. In the context of Pompeii, where cremation was the common funerary practice for adults, Secundio's intact burial is highly unusual, indicating the significant social and economic status he had achieved. Inside the tomb, experts discovered not only well-preserved remains, but also a small glass urn engraved with the name of a woman, Novia Amabilis, believed to be Marcus Secundio's wife. Though simple in appearance, the urn provides an important clue about his family life and personal relationships within ancient Pompeii society. Secundio's story, however, goes far beyond his burial. Before his death, he played a key role managing the Temple of Venus in Pompeii. After being freed from slavery, he joined the Augustales, a prestigious social order responsible for conducting religious rituals and managing charitable funds in the city. His burial in a proper tomb, along with the artifacts discovered inside, reflects the considerable wealth and social standing Secundio had attained. Another detail that particularly caught the attention of archaeologists was a Greek inscription engraved on a marble slab atop the tomb. The text recorded performances at the Pompeii Theater, serving both as evidence of his wealth and as a window into Secundio's refined taste in the arts and cultural knowledge. Through this, we can glimpse the elite, culturally rich, and influential life within Pompeii at the time. Overall, Marcus Secundio's remains are not just an archaeological find. They open a vivid window into the life, culture, and society of Pompeii before the volcanic disaster struck. From the engraved urn of his wife to the remnants of hair and the Greek inscription on the marble slab, each detail tells its own story, inviting us to embark on a journey into a past more than 2,000 years old. Secundio's remains are a clear testament that even amid the catastrophic power of Vesuvius, culture and history preserve precious moments. Finds like this remind us that the past is never truly silent. It simply waits to be revealed, telling the story of human life, power, and art from a long-lost era. 11 archaeological discoveries more mysterious than sci-fi. The 300-year-old princess whose body remains intact, with skin still elastic like she was alive, leaving archaeologists astonished. If one day you came across a body that had been resting in a tomb for several hundred years, yet its skin was still soft and elastic like that of a living person, how would you react? Anyone would get goosebumps, right? And Chinese archaeologists in the 1970s were no exception. When they opened the lid of an ancient coffin in the city of Chifeng, Inner Mongolia, China, they froze in shock at a sight they had never seen before. Inside lay a perfectly preserved female body, her skin soft as if she had only just fallen into a gentle sleep somewhere in the flow of time. But what shocked them even more was a dragon robe sewn with thousands of pearls draped right over her body, an outfit that, according to tradition, could only be worn by the emperor. Anyone who dared to put it on without permission would not only bring disaster upon themselves, but could even cause the extermination of their entire clan. Yet this woman wore it into her grave. So who was she, and how noble was her status? At the time, experts were completely baffled. If the person in the tomb had been a man, it might have sparked speculation about a missing emperor forgotten by history. But a woman wearing a dragon robe? That was completely illogical. Some even boldly questioned whether this could be the tomb of Wu Zetian, the only female emperor in Chinese history. But no, the truth headed in a far more unexpected direction. After carefully examining the tomb structure, which measured about 148 feet from east to west, 344 feet from north to south, covering nearly 54,000 square feet, and studying the stone inscriptions found inside, experts were able to identify the woman as Princess Gulun Rongxian, the third daughter of Emperor Kangxi, one of the greatest emperors of the Qing dynasty. She was also the daughter whom Kangxi loved the most. Inside the tomb, the princess's body measured around 4 feet 11 inches to 5 feet 3 inches in height. Her long black hair reached about 30 inches, and her hands still wore gold bracelets and gold rings. On her feet was a pair of exquisitely embroidered red shoes. Even more mysterious, there was a bloodstain on her thigh, a mark that remains unexplained to this day. It added yet another layer of mystery to the tomb, as if time itself had intentionally left behind a question to challenge future generations. Yet the most astonishing detail remained the pearl-studded dragon robe, an item meant only for the emperor. Why would a princess be granted such an extraordinary honor? To answer this, experts dove into historical records. Finally, they found the explanation, hidden within the princess's own life. one filled with both turbulence and tranquility. She was the daughter of Consort Rong of the Magia clan, a beloved consort whom Emperor Kangxi adored deeply. From childhood, the princess grew up surrounded by her father's affection. But like many princesses in ancient feudal times, she couldn't escape a political marriage. At the age of 9, Rongxian was betrothed to Ongi Gung, the son of the Prince of Bailing, a leader of Inner Mongolia. 10 years later, she left the capital and married into the vast grasslands. Fortunately, the marriage turned out to be a happy one, something remarkably rare for royal women in ancient China. To compensate for her life far away from the palace, Kangxi granted her the title of Gulan Rongxian Princess, the highest rank a princess could receive, normally reserved only for daughters born of the empress. When the princess passed away at 56, the Yongzheng emperor, grateful for her contributions to the imperial court, bestowed upon her a special pearl-embroidered dragon robe so she could wear it into the afterlife. In the entire Qing dynasty, only Princess Rongxian was ever granted such an honor. Her eldest son later built a grand tomb for her in the vast grasslands, allowing her to rest forever beneath the endless sky. As you can see, the story of a perfectly preserved body, a mysterious dragon robe, and a princess of extraordinary grace pulls us backward through time, letting us step into the world of a long-slumbering dynasty. The deeper we go, the more we realize that history isn't just a collection of dry pages. It's countless lives and countless mysteries waiting to be awakened through ancient tombs and stories buried for more than 3 centuries. So, what do you think about this mystery? Skin still elastic after 300 years? And if you had the chance to explore a tomb like this, would you dare to step inside? 2. 600-million-year-old tiny human skeletons challenge Darwin's theory of evolution. Amid the endless ice and snow, where the wind howls as if trying to erase every trace of life, Antarctica suddenly became the center of global scientific attention when 2 tiny skeletons were discovered in the Whitmore mountain range. It sounds like a joke, but researchers themselves confirmed it. These remains date back 600 million years, older than the dinosaurs, so ancient that they fall completely outside humanity's existing understanding of life on Earth. Just imagine this. On a continent where no humans have ever lived, 2 small but almost perfectly preserved skeletons were found. It's like brushing against the doorway of time itself, revealing mysteries that modern science still has no explanation for. In the past, reports of tiny human skeletons have appeared in many places around the world, from Asia to South America. But this Antarctic discovery is an entirely different story. It doesn't just add more evidence to the existence of mysterious beings often found in mythology, it also forces the scientific community to reconsider a fundamental question. Where did humanity actually begin? But the biggest puzzle of all is the dating. How could a creature with human-like characteristics exist at a time when Earth hadn't even developed vertebrates? 600 million years ago, life consisted only of soft-bodied organisms drifting through a primordial ocean. Yet now, 2 human skeletons lie preserved in the eternal ice like a direct challenge. You think you figured out history, and the anatomical structure makes the story even more astonishing. Scientists revealed that the skeletons don't resemble primates, nor any known prehistoric species. Their body proportions, bone development, joints, and skulls all indicate that these were adults, not infants or some kind of ancient monkey. When compared with Darwin's theory of evolution, the existence of these ancient tiny humans fits nowhere in the evolutionary tree we know. According to Darwin, humans emerged after millions of years of gradual transformation, from ancient apes to Homo sapiens. Yet these 2 skeletons stand completely apart, as if they came from a parallel world or from a civilization erased by time. This led many researchers to exclaim, if they were truly human, then who were they? Where did they come from? And how could they exist long before the dinosaurs? More and more evidence keeps surfacing. From tiny skeletons in the Americas to ancient legends about dwarves, elves, and star people. All of it begins to form a larger picture, hinting that beings once dismissed as myth may have actually existed. The discovery in the Whitmore Mountains is nothing short of an explosion, one that shakes the foundations of Darwin's theory and forces humanity to confront a daunting question. Do we truly understand Earth's history, or have we mistaken real events for myths simply because they were buried too deeply? What would you think if one day we found more evidence of tiny civilizations that once coexisted with humans? Could our world hold far more secrets than we imagine? And if we can uncover two 600 million-year-old skeletons, then what else might be hiding beneath the Antarctic ice? Honestly, I don't even dare to imagine. A World War II bomb emerges from the dry bed of Italy's Po River. Scorching heat swept across Europe, and in Italy, the Po River, normally the lifeline supplying water for nearly one-third of the country's agricultural sector, has dried to a level not seen in 70 years. The riverbed cracked open, the water receded, revealing patches of dark, barren earth. And from that dried-out landscape, a story from the past suddenly resurfaced. About 992 pounds from World War II. This weapon, long buried and forgotten under the river for decades, now lay exposed in the mud like a silent warning. On July 25th, several local fishermen walking along a stretch of the Po near the village of Borgo Virgilio in northern Italy spotted the strange object. At first, they thought it was just a piece of metal, but as they approached, chills ran down their spines. Its shape was unmistakable, a large bomb. Only because the water level had dropped so drastically due to drought did the bomb finally emerge after more than 70 years. A police unit was immediately dispatched to the scene. Colonel Marco Nasi, who led the disposal operation, explained, "The bomb was found because the water level in the Po River dropped due to drought." A short statement, but one that reveals a harsh truth. Nature was not only draining away the water, but also dragging remnants of war back to the surface. But finding the bomb was only the beginning of a tense and complicated process. Disarming it was anything but easy. The bomb contained about 529 pounds of explosives manufactured by the United States, and even the slightest mishandling could have triggered a catastrophe. Before engineers could even approach the site, authorities were forced to evacuate 3,000 residents living nearby. Many initially refused, some underestimated the danger, others simply didn't want to leave their homes. But after days of persuasion, Mayor Francesco Apporti managed to get everyone to comply. Of course, not only residents had to leave, airspace over the area was temporarily closed. Railways and roads surrounding the site were shut down. An entire region seemed to hold its breath as the bomb disposal team slowly approached an explosive device that had been waiting in silence for more than 7 decades. The engineers then began the riskiest step, removing the fuse, the most dangerous component of the bomb. Once that was completed, the immediate threat eased, but the mission was far from over. Under police escort, the bomb was transported roughly about 28 miles to a quarry in Medole. There, specialists carried out a controlled detonation to ensure it posed no further danger to the public. As Italy struggles with its worst drought in 70 years, the sudden reappearance of a World War II bomb from the Po River feels like a strange fracture between past and present. This July, the government was forced to declare a state of emergency across the entire region surrounding the river, where extreme heat had evaporated water sources, scorched fields, and left crops withering under record temperatures. Nature is becoming increasingly harsh, and in that harshness, it has unintentionally revealed relics of war we thought were buried forever. So it makes you wonder, beneath other rivers, beneath fields cracking under the relentless heat, how many deadly secrets are still waiting to surface? We truly have no way of knowing, do we? A Chinese mummy turns black within minutes, challenging everything archaeologists thought they knew. In March 2017, amid the rumbling of excavators at a drainage construction site in Taikang County, Henan Province, China, no one expected that a single accidental scoop would strike directly into a doorway that had been sealed for centuries. The ground suddenly collapsed, revealing the top of a structure that, at just a glance, workers immediately recognized as an ancient tomb. The area was quickly sealed off, and archaeologists were called in. After inspecting the site, experts determined that it was a tomb from the Ming Dynasty. But their excitement didn't last long before worry set in. Because of the excavator's impact, the tomb structure had been severely damaged, so much so that the 2 coffins inside had been completely displaced, tilted as if they had just survived an earthquake. Yet what truly sent chills through everyone wasn't the damaged tomb, but what they found inside the coffins. When the lids were opened and light fell upon the remains, the archaeological team froze. The bodies were almost completely intact. The flesh had shriveled only slightly, The facial features remained clear, and the deceased looked as if they had passed away just a few days earlier. Saying that the discovery felt like something straight out of a movie wouldn't be an exaggeration at all. But the strange part didn't stop there. It was only beginning. Just minutes after being exposed to the outside air, right before the experts' eyes, both bodies suddenly turned black. No one had time to react. No one understood what was happening. They simply stood there, stunned, watching the eerie transformation unfold as if someone had pressed a color change button on a corpse. The phenomenon was so unusual that many experts later admitted they didn't even know where to begin explaining it. To identify the tomb's owner, the archaeological team began collecting artifacts and documents buried with the deceased. After days of research, they slowly pieced together the history of the man laid to rest below. He was no ordinary figure. The tomb belonged to Guo Po, a local resident who held an important position in the Ming dynasty. During his lifetime, he served as the right censor-in-chief, a high-ranking official responsible for supervising government administrators and combating corruption, a role that commanded great respect. In the cultural history of Taikang County, Guo Po is described as a scholar during the reign of the Zhonwen Emperor, known for his integrity, honesty, and fearless character. The people of that time even gave him a title that reflected their admiration, the Bao Zheng of the Ming dynasty. So why did the bodies of this upright official and his companion turn black just minutes after being exposed to air? That question has puzzled archaeologists for years. Several hypotheses were proposed. Perhaps the sealed environment and unique humidity preserved the bodies naturally for centuries. Perhaps the embalming materials or chemicals in the coffin reacted strongly with oxygen. Some even suggested that sudden exposure to sunlight triggered a rare chemical reaction. But all of these remain speculations. Not a single explanation has been accepted as definitive. Unable to determine the exact cause, the event has since become one of China's most famous archaeological mysteries, one that researchers still struggle to explain. Two bodies changing color in an instant sounds like fiction, yet it happened in 2017, right in the middle of a construction site, witnessed by dozens of people. Just think about it. Beneath the deep soil of China and the world, how many secrets are still waiting to be uncovered? The secret British submarine wreck, found off the coast of Greece. In the deep blue waters of the Aegean Sea, where waves ceaselessly crash against the sunlit, windswept cliffs of Cape Sunion, lies a long-buried secret. Just roughly 6.2 miles from shore, at a depth of more than 656 feet, something has rested quietly for nearly 80 years. And in 2023, in this seemingly peaceful place, veteran Greek diver Kostas Thoctarides wrote a new chapter in maritime history. With remarkable persistence and a passion for uncovering the stories hidden beneath the sea, Kostas announced one of the most significant discoveries of his career: the wreck of HMS Triumph, a top-secret British submarine that vanished during World War II and remained an unanswered mystery for decades. When the first images appeared from the remotely operated underwater vehicle, ROV, the entire search team held their breath. HMS Triumph lay at a depth of about 666 feet in unexpectedly good condition. The hatches were still sealed, the periscope retracted, clear signs that the submarine was in deep dive mode at the moment disaster struck. It was a frozen moment in history, as if time had stopped at the exact second of its fate. But it was the bow section that truly sent chills down the experts' spines. It was heavily destroyed, an unmistakable sign of a violent explosion. After cooperating with submarine and torpedo specialists, the team concluded that the blast most likely came from one of Triumph's own torpedoes, possibly triggered unexpectedly while the submarine was operating. One member of the team, Rina Giatropoulou Thoctarides, shared a heartbreaking assessment. "I believe all 64 crew members were inside the submarine because every hatch was closed when the accident occurred. That means no one had the chance to escape. A deeply tragic end for the sailors who had served for years in the brutal conditions of wartime." During World War II, HMS Triumph was far more than a combat submarine. It carried out covert missions, rescued British prisoners, transported intelligence agents, and supported the Greek resistance. Yet during a prisoner extraction operation on the island of Antiparos in December 1941, something went wrong. The submarine disappeared shortly afterward, on January 23, 1942. From that moment, Triumph became a lingering question mark, a missing entry in the war's historical record, unsolved for decades. Naturally, the search for the vessel was anything but easy. Over more than 20 years, teams of divers, experts, and researchers chased every possible lead. But harsh weather, strong currents, and extreme depths caused almost every mission to fail. Only with modern technology, especially deep-diving ROVs, could Costas's team finally reach an area once completely inaccessible to humans. And when the submarine was finally located, it became not only a triumph of technology and perseverance, but also a tribute to the 64 sailors who now rest beneath the sea. HMS Triumph has since become a memorial to courage, sacrifice, and a chapter of history that should never be forgotten. Many questions remain unanswered, such as the exact cause of the explosion and what happened in the submarine's final moments. But the discovery of Triumph has illuminated a truth buried for nearly a century. And as you know, every underwater discovery carries a story that time once tried to hide. Perhaps Triumph is only one of countless secrets still waiting to be revealed beneath the waves. Giant human skeleton found, kneeling in a 1,500-year-old coffin, remains unexplained. Gyeongju, the ancient capital of the Shilla Kingdom, has long been celebrated as a vast underground museum, where each layer of soil preserves stories thousands of years old. But a recent discovery has astonished both archaeologists and the general public in South Korea. A nearly 5 feet 11 inches tall human skeleton buried in an ancient Shilla period tomb, excavated in North Gyeongsang Province. At first glance, it might seem ordinary, but in the context of the Three Kingdoms period on the Korean peninsula, this height was extraordinary, sparking numerous hypotheses about the identity and life of this man. Initial measurements showed the skeleton lying in the second tomb, enclosed in a fairly sturdy wooden coffin. Experts first recorded a height of approximately 5 feet 9 inches, but when they accounted for the neck bones bent toward the chest, they concluded the actual height could reach 5 feet 11 inches, significantly taller than the average height of people at the time, which was around 5 feet 5 inches. Being roughly 6 inches taller than the average clearly suggested this was no ordinary man. However, what drew the most curiosity was not the height, but the unusual burial posture. When excavating the coffin, specialists found the body was not lying flat on its back, as was customary. Instead, the face was pressed toward the ground, and the legs and thighs were unnaturally bent. The posture suggested the body had been forced into a coffin that was too small. Many archaeologists believe this was because coffins were pre-made to standard dimensions, and the man's exceptional height required his body to be folded to fit. The scene was unsettling. Even from photographs, it raises the chilling question: why would such a remarkable individual not receive a custom coffin? Further study revealed that the man's spine was deformed, showing signs consistent with a herniated disc. This has led many to speculate that he endured long years of heavy labor, leaving clear marks of a physically demanding life. This contradicts the assumption that someone of such stature would belong to the elite or serve as a highly trained warrior. Perhaps the most puzzling aspect is the lack of valuable artifacts in the tomb that could help identify the deceased. Only a few pottery pieces and some iron fragments, possibly parts of tools or blades, were found near the head. There were no weapons, armor, or other grave goods typically buried with nobility during the Shilla period. This leaves the question of the 5 feet 11-inch man's identity wide open. Was he an extraordinarily strong farmer, a warrior hastily buried, or a special individual whose burial rituals were, for some unknown reason, incomplete? To this day, archaeologists continue analyzing every bone fragment and remaining trace in hopes of uncovering more about the life of this towering man. But, as you know, archaeology is always like this. The deeper you dig, the more mysteries emerge. And sometimes it is the unanswered questions that make a story more fascinating than ever. 1,000 giant statues on the world's most mysterious island. The modern world has achieved technological feats that leave us in awe. We can send probes to the edge of the solar system, build intelligent robots, and even edit human genes. Yet, amid all this extraordinary progress, there remain mysteries from the past that modern science simply cannot explain. And it is precisely these unexplainable phenomena that haunt us, spark our curiosity, and drive us to keep searching for answers. In humanity's journey to explore history, one strange phenomenon has perplexed scientists for decades: the giant stone statues of Easter Island. an isolated island in the Pacific Ocean. Over 1,000 statues, known as moai, stand tall under the sky like silent guardians of a vanished civilization. But the mystery is not only in their size or number, it lies in the question, who created them and why? As our ancestors developed intelligence, they learned to use tools. From simple stone axes, they gradually mastered metalworking, creating bronze and alloys, eventually progressing to modern materials like steel and titanium. By that logic, human construction and creative abilities have grown over time. But what makes us pause and question is this. More than 1,000 years ago, perhaps even 3,000 years ago, how could people on a remote island, lacking both technology and resources, carve stone statues up to 33 feet tall, weighing tens of tons, and transport them for miles? We are familiar with images of the moai with their oversized heads, their gaze fixed solemnly on the horizon. Yet few realize these statues are not just heads. Archaeologists digging deeper have uncovered their bodies, arms, and even intricate details carved into their torsos. This suggests that many of the over 1,000 statues were buried by time, and what we see today is merely the tip of the iceberg. What was the true purpose of the moai? Why did the ancient inhabitants expend so much effort, time, and resources to build them? To this day, no theory has gained universal acceptance. Some suggest the statues represent ancestors, erected to watch over the spirits of the dead. Others speculate they served religious purposes, rituals for rain, or markers of special energy points on Earth. However, a notable group of researchers and online enthusiasts take a completely different view, proposing that the moai were the work of extraterrestrials. Strange similarities between the moai and ancient carvings in Egypt, Central America, and even the Indus Valley have fueled this hypothesis. Of course, some claim the statues are simply a product of natural erosion, rocks weathered over time taking on human-like shapes. But this explanation is clearly insufficient. No natural process could produce over 1,000 statues sharing the same style, proportions, and size, much less arrange them in deliberate orientations, with some facing inward toward the island as if observing villagers, and others gazing out to the distant ocean. Researchers believe the moai were carved between 1100 and 1680 AD, not as ancient as the pyramids or Stonehenge, but no less mysterious. And despite dozens of excavations, scientific studies, material analyses, and 3D modeling, no final explanation has emerged. Easter Island, named for the day Europeans first sighted it, Easter 1722, is now not only a strange tourist destination, but also a symbol of the limits of human knowledge. The statues stand there, motionless and silent, as if waiting for an answer, a rational explanation for their existence, and for the mysterious hands that created them thousands of years ago. Will science ever solve the mystery? Or will it remain one of the unanswered questions of history? A place where our imagination can soar beyond what modern technology can reach? Whether you believe in extraterrestrials or the extraordinary power of ancient humans, the moai remain a vivid reminder that history is not only what we have written, it is also what we have yet to understand. Roman skeletons unearthed beneath the streets of Rome. The story began on September 20th, when a crew working near the Pyramid metro station, across from the Pyramid of Cestius, the only Egyptian-style pyramid in Europe, stumbled upon the skeleton of an adult male. Archaeologists were immediately called to the site. This skeleton, nicknamed the Pyramid Mummy, amazed everyone with its near-perfect preservation. Nails still intact around the remains suggested the man had been buried in a wooden coffin, raising intriguing questions about Roman funeral rituals at the time. Just a few days later, archaeologists discovered two more skeletons nearby, those of a mother and her young child. Remarkably, the child was positioned between the mother's hips and knees, creating a scene that was both touching and mysterious. Experts quickly determined that all three skeletons belonged to the same family and were buried within a section of the Via Ostiense necropolis, one of the best-preserved ancient cemeteries in Rome. This discovery drew attention not only for the extraordinary preservation of the mummies, but also for their location. The Pyramide station, named after the Pyramid of Cestius, originally served as the tomb of Gaius Cestius, a member of the ancient religious order Epillones, known for elaborate rituals and ceremonial burial practices. The juxtaposition of modern infrastructure and ancient history creates a vivid historical tableau, where the past and present meet directly beneath the streets of Rome. Currently, Italian authorities have cordoned off the excavation site, allowing archaeologists to conduct detailed studies and address lingering questions. Why was this family buried in that particular location? What was the cause of their deaths? And could other secrets of their lives in ancient Rome still be waiting to be uncovered right beneath our feet? Every bone and every trace inside the wooden coffins may reveal part of their story, and archaeologists are particularly eager to determine the exact dates and circumstances surrounding these three skeletons. This discovery reminds us that Rome is not just bustling streets, famous squares, and well-known ruins. Beneath our feet, history sleeps, waiting for the day it will awaken to tell stories never before heard. These three nearly intact skeletons stand as living proof that sometimes the past is only a few steps away. If you ever visit Rome and ride its subway system, remember, beneath every meter of earth, there may lie secrets more than 2 millennia old, waiting to be unearthed and share their story. 400 rooms, hidden in a mountainside filled with treasures and ancient skeletons of an 1800-year-old city. A seemingly ordinary mountainside conceals as many as 400 lavish rooms, each containing human remains and luxurious treasures. It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but this is real, recently uncovered at the ancient city of Blandos, located about 112 miles east of the Aegean coast in modern-day Turkey. This city was founded during the era of Alexander the Great, later flourishing under Roman and Byzantine rule, and now its long-hidden secrets are beginning to emerge. From the outside, the necropolis looks like a mountainside pocked with holes. But when archaeologists stepped inside, they could hardly believe their eyes. Before them lay 400 intricately decorated rooms with vaulted ceilings and walls adorned with vivid landscape, geometric, and figurative frescoes. In many ways, each room could be compared to a hall in a palace or a luxury hotel. Of course, after more than 1,800 years, not all frescoes have survived intact. Only about 24 remain clearly visible, while many others are obscured by soot and dust. Thanks to the efforts of a preservation team, some paintings have been carefully cleaned, revealing stunning images of flowers, landscapes, and delicate patterns that leave viewers in awe. Each room contains one or more sarcophagi, where the citizens of Blandos were laid to rest between the 2nd and 4th centuries CE. Interestingly, the ancient inhabitants skillfully carved these tombs directly into the rock face, taking advantage of the natural formations of the vast Usha Canyon, one of the longest canyon systems in the world. This method not only ensured the durability of the tombs, but also preserved many intricate decorative details. Although the necropolis has been known for more than 150 years, systematic excavations only began in 2018 under the leadership of archaeologist Birol Khan. At that time, they uncovered not just the necropolis, but also a range of other structures: temples, a cathedral, a theater, public baths, gymnasiums, grand gateways, and an advanced water system. During the excavation of a rock tomb, they even found human remains dating back roughly 1,800 years, opening a new avenue of research into the necropolis and its previously unexplained mysteries. According to Smithsonian Magazine, the burial rooms originally contained countless luxury grave goods: mirrors, rings, bracelets, belts, medical instruments, drinking cups, and oil lamps. Over the centuries, however, the tombs suffered extensive looting, and many treasures were stolen or damaged. Yet, what remains is still an invaluable archaeological treasure, demonstrating the sophistication and wealth of Blandos's ancient citizens. Remarkably, the necropolis is only a small part of this grand ancient city. Archaeologists believe that beneath the surface, there are still religious, public, and residential buildings yet to be excavated. As such, excavations continue, promising to reveal more mysteries that thrill anyone with a passion for discovery. Can you imagine a mountainside that seems barren on the outside, hiding lavish rooms, treasure, and human history over 1,800 years old? If you have, this discovery is living proof that history is full of surprises, waiting patiently for us to uncover them. The ancient city of Nakhon Ratchasima. If you think that Nakhon Ratchasima, a modern, bustling city in northeastern Thailand, is only known as the gateway to the Aizan region or as a tourist hub, you might need to think again. A shocking recent discovery is gradually unveiling the secrets of a civilization that existed here thousands of years ago. A distant past that even modern Thais could hardly have imagined to be so rich and profound. It all began with what seemed like a routine archaeological project. In 2024, the Fine Arts Department of Thailand launched an excavation to locate remnants of the city walls from the era of King Narai the Great, who ruled the Ayutthaya Kingdom from 1656 to 1688. The goal was assumed to be the restoration and preservation of Ayutthaya-era structures. But just days before the project was set to conclude, archaeologists unexpectedly uncovered a human skull. This discovery stunned the team and completely changed how we view the history of this region. Excavations were extended, and in just 17 days, 3 more skeletons were found, along with numerous artifacts such as Phaimai black pottery and gold jewelry, distinctive traces of Iron Age culture dating from 2,400 to 1,500 years ago. Thermoluminescence dating confirmed that this was an ancient cemetery, proof of a prehistoric community living here long before Ayutthaya or even the Khmer Empire ruled the area. But the story didn't stop there. A research team led by Dr. Santi Pilopli from Chulalongkorn University began asking, could modern Nakhon Ratchasima sit atop an even older city? By analyzing aerial photographs from 1954, they discovered a roughly square, 4-sided earthen embankment located outside ancient moats, aligned with the courses of 2 historic streams, a sophisticated water management system commonly used by ancient civilizations to irrigate and protect their communities. Interestingly, the city's main road today, Champol Road, may have marked the southern boundary of this prehistoric settlement. This suggests that beneath the modern city lies an even older urban center, covering roughly 1.25 square miles, about twice the size of King Narai's Ayutthaya-era city. This discovery sparked a new search, leading to excavations near Phon Lan Gate in early 2025. There, archaeologists uncovered 3 additional skeletons at depths ranging from 394 to 656 feet, along with astonishing artifacts, bracelets, pottery, and pure gold fragments containing up to 80% purity. These findings clearly indicate that what was previously believed to have begun in the 17th century had, in fact, been inhabited at least 2,500 to 4,000 years ago. Scholars even suggest that this prehistoric settlement could have lasted until the late Iron Age, just before the advent of written history. Another particularly exciting detail for researchers is the shape of the ancient settlement. It is nearly square, in contrast to the rectangular layouts typical of Khmer reservoirs. This supports the conclusion that it was an independent urban center with its own planning system, not fully influenced by Khmer culture. As if a gift from the past, these excavations have given the public a chance to witness history coming alive. The Phon Lan Gate excavation site has been transformed into a temporary learning center, open to visitors, students, and archaeology enthusiasts. They can touch the artifacts, hear stories directly from the archaeologists, and feel more clearly than ever that beneath their feet lie pages of history never written. Thai professor and historian Tongthong Chandransu, after visiting the site, wrote, "Now I understand that people lived in this area at least 1,500 years ago, and this settlement persisted all the way to the dawn of recorded history. These discoveries are not just rewriting the history of Nakhon Ratchasima, they are prompting us to reconsider the origins and development of civilizations across Southeast Asia." 13 skulls buried beneath a Maya pyramid. Imagine standing at the base of an ancient Maya pyramid, knowing that less than 2 feet beneath your feet lie the skulls of young men who lived thousands of years ago. What would you feel? Fear, the urge to run, or the courage to move closer and uncover the story? At the Moral Reforma Archaeological site, deep in the jungles of Tabasco, Mexico, archaeologists have revealed a discovery that has stunned researchers. 13 human skeletons were found neatly arranged beneath the base of Structure 18, an ancient pyramid associated with the mysterious rituals of the Maya. The skeletons were buried only about 1 foot deep and located exactly 39 feet from the pyramid, suggesting deliberate placement. All of them were male, aged between 17 and 35, and likely interred between 600 and 900 BCE. This was during a period when Moral Reforma was flourishing as a bustling Maya trade center, filled with palaces, plazas, and towering structures rising above the jungle canopy. What caught the archaeologists' attention most were 2 skulls with deep, precise cuts across the junction between the skull and the cervical vertebrae. The sharp incisions indicate that someone used a very sharp tool to remove the heads. But the critical question remains: Were they decapitated while alive, or was this part of a ritual performed post-mortem? Clues lie in the fact that the cervical vertebrae and jawbones remained in anatomical alignment, a detail that required painstaking analysis down to the millimeter. Adding to the intrigue, 5 other skulls were unusually elongated, deliberately shaped from childhood. This practice was not uncommon among the Maya, who considered cranial deformation a symbol of high status. This has led many archaeologists to speculate. Were these individuals elite members of society, or prisoners sacrificed for a powerful deity? Further examination revealed many teeth with decay, likely evidence of a maize-heavy diet, and some bones were coated with red pigment. Among the Maya, red symbolized rebirth and the sacred world, adding another layer of mystery to the story. As you may know, Moral Reforma was a major Maya city, allied with powerful centers such as Calakmul and Palenque, and home to as many as 76 architectural structures. Yet around 1000 BCE, the city was abandoned, leaving behind empty pyramids and countless unanswered questions, including the mystery of the 13 men buried beneath Structure 18. Many archaeologists believe these individuals may have been sacrificed to appease an underworld deity. But which god? Why 13 people? And why were some skulls intentionally elongated as a symbol of nobility? Until answers emerge, all we have are bones, teeth, and silent traces of violence that have endured for thousands of years. Yet those very bones tell a haunting story, a story of life, death, power, and belief in a once mighty civilization hidden deep within the Mesoamerican jungle. 12 breathtakingly mysterious archaeological discoveries that shocked the world. Noblewoman's mummy holds her husband's heart for 350 years. At the Jacobin convent in the city of Rennes in northwest France, archaeologists have uncovered a discovery that has left the scientific community astonished. The almost perfectly preserved body of a 17th century noblewoman lying in a lead coffin with her late husband's heart placed right beside her. Just hearing that makes you curious to know the story behind it, doesn't it? The body has been identified as Louise de Kengo, the wife of nobleman Toussaint Perrien, who passed away in 1656 at the age of over 60. But what has amazed experts is not just her age or noble status, it's the extraordinary preservation of her body. After more than 350 years underground, much of her hair, skin, internal organs, and even her brain remain intact. Standing at just 4 feet 9 inches tall, Louise's physical appearance has barely changed over time, a truly rare case in archaeology. But the pinnacle of curiosity lies in her husband's heart, placed right next to her in the coffin. At first, it may sound eerie, but archaeologists explain that this was not unusual. In the 17th century, locals often entrusted important organs of the deceased to family members or religious institutions for safekeeping, as a gesture of love and respect. So, Louise holding her husband's heart in the coffin was not only an act of affection, but also a ritual steeped in the religious beliefs of that era. Her body was also wrapped in a cloak, with a cross on her chest, and her clothing closely resembled that of a nun. Based on this, archaeologists hypothesize that after her husband's death, Louise may have chosen to enter the convent, seeking peace and spiritual devotion. And it was precisely this convent that preserved her nearly intact body for more than 3.5 centuries. The discoveries didn't stop there. Around the excavation site, scientists also found 4 other coffins and approximately 800 graves dating back to the 17th century. However, all of those bodies had completely decomposed, leaving only bones behind. Compared to them, Louise's miraculous preservation is truly a rare beacon, as noted by the French National Center for Scientific Research, CNRS. Her case not only sheds light on the burial customs of the upper class, but also offers a unique window into the lives and beliefs of the nobility at that time. Isn't it fascinating that a heart could be preserved beside a loved one for over 3 centuries? And if you lived in that era, would you want to keep a part of your beloved close to you, as Louise did? These details make history come alive, not just as dry words in a book, but as a story full of emotion, love, and faith, touching even our hearts today. The mystery of the Jacobin convent reminds us that history is not just the past, it is also the untold stories, the souls that continue to linger among us through time, preserved by the secrets that soil and stone hold. 2,000-year-old skeleton still preserves hair and ears. Here's what happened. In the city of Pompeii, Once swallowed by the blazing hot ash of Mount Vesuvius, archaeologists unexpectedly uncovered a skeleton that still had silver-white hair and part of the ear preserved, even after more than 2,000 years. Spine-tingling just to imagine, right? But the story behind this skeleton is even more fascinating than a documentary and almost hard to believe. The man was Marcus Venerius Secundio, whose name was clearly engraved on his tombstone and also appears in the wax tablet archives of a wealthy Roman banker who lived in Pompeii. But here's the interesting part. Marcus wasn't born into privilege. He was originally a slave serving in the Temple of Venus. Yet life sometimes takes unexpected turns. Marcus was eventually freed and gradually climbed the social ladder through his own abilities. The clearest evidence of his rise is the large, luxurious tomb built for him. Anyone familiar with Pompeii's history knows that not everyone was buried. Most adults were cremated, and only children were typically interred. So Marcus's full-body burial was already unusual, but to have his hair and part of his ear still preserved? That's exceptionally rare. Adding to the intrigue, archaeologists read on his tombstone that after gaining freedom, Marcus's work in Pompeii involved organizing performances in Greek rather than Latin. At that time, using a foreign language was unusual, which demonstrates both the cultural openness of ancient Pompeii and Marcus's social standing. Rising from slavery to hold such influence, he must have been a prominent figure in the city's cultural life. Yet what truly captivates archaeologists is that Marcus's silver hair and part of his ear are still intact. How is this possible? According to the director of the Pompeii Archaeological Park, the tomb chamber was a sealed space, which helped preserve some of the soft tissues. Some experts even speculate that Marcus may have been mummified, a practice uncommon in Roman culture. However, this is still a hypothesis. To find a definitive answer, specialists are analyzing fragments of cloth found with the skeleton to determine whether deliberate preservation techniques were used. Hopefully, the mystery will be clarified soon. Every time Pompeii is mentioned, it's impossible not to recall the disaster that buried the city in 79 AD. Mount Vesuvius, only about 9 miles away, produced pyroclastic flows moving up to 435 miles per hour and temperatures reaching 1,832 degrees Fahrenheit, obliterating life in an instant. Roman poet Pliny the Younger described the massive black plume rising like a flaming pine tree and sweeping down, engulfing Pompeii in thick darkness. Around 2,000 people perished. When Pompeii was excavated in the 19th century, researchers uncovered just over 1,000 bodies, many preserved as plaster mummies, frozen in the very moment death struck. Amid this tragic scene, Marcus Venerius Secundio's skeleton stands out as a mystery that defies time. A man who rose from slavery, gained freedom, lived prosperously, and now lies under volcanic ash with his silver hair intact, as if he still wants to tell the story that has remained unheard for 2,000 years. So, what truly allowed him to be preserved so perfectly for millennia? And what other secrets of his life remain undiscovered? Share your thoughts. Perhaps your perspective could shed new light on this extraordinary story. 3,500-year-old axes buried deep in a Polish forest reveal a strange ancient ritual. In a dense forest in the Kociewie region of northern Poland, where you'd expect to find nothing but trees, dry leaves, and the sound of wind brushing through the canopy, a strange story began with a faint beep from a metal detector. And that very beep led metal detecting specialist Dennis Konkol to a discovery that immediately caught the attention of archaeologists. 5 Bronze Age axes, buried about 8 to 12 inches below the ground, lying untouched for 3,500 years. Just imagine, an entire cache of ancient axes hidden in the middle of the forest. Strange, isn't it? But the story becomes even more fascinating once archaeologists began closely analyzing the axes. After examination, they revealed that these weren't ordinary axes at all. They were Tautušai axes, named after the village of Tautušai in Lithuania. These axes have slender necks and crescent-shaped blades. According to Piotr Klimaszewski, head of the Archaeological Monuments Office, this type of axe once served multiple purposes, chopping wood or being wielded as a weapon during ancient conflicts. But what intrigued researchers most wasn't how the axes were used in everyday life. Klimaszewski admitted that these axes may have been used in religious rituals or even as a form of ancient sacrifice. This possibility opens a window into a misty layer of ancient culture, where people believed that sharp, powerful tools like axes could serve as a bridge between humans and the gods who governed nature. According to Igor Sturzak, conservator of the Pomeranian province, finding a set of axes like this in such a remote forest location is extremely rare. This only deepens the mystery and raises questions. Who brought them here? Why were they buried? Was this once a sacred site for rituals? Or was it a hidden stash of battle spoils buried to avoid detection? And the mystery thickens further. Not only were the axes found, but the archaeological team also uncovered a small yet fascinating object nearby. A 2,000-year-old bone pin, a type of clothing fastener used in ancient times. Its presence adds another layer of intrigue, as it belongs to a completely different era than the axes. Still, there is one thing all archaeologists agree on. The preservation of the axes is astonishing. After millennia underground in cold soil, their shapes and details remain so intact that both the discoverer and experts were stunned. For now, the reason this ancient axe hoard ended up in the forest remains a major question. Researchers say they need to continue excavating, analyzing the soil layers, comparing materials, and reconstructing the historical context to understand exactly why the axes were placed there. At this point, everything remains only a set of early hypotheses. And it's precisely this uncertainty that makes the discovery so irresistibly captivating for anyone who loves archaeology and ancient mysteries. An ancient cemetery of thousands of cliffside tombs, resembling a giant beehive. You may already know that on the map of Italy, Sicily is often seen as a land full of strange wonders and endless surprises. But what you may not know is that hidden among its many famous landmarks lies an ancient secret, quietly preserved among the mountains and forests, waiting for curious travelers to discover it. And then, as you lift your head, you suddenly find yourself staring at an enormous rock wall dotted with thousands of small openings, resting places of ancient people from thousands of years ago. Yes, this is the Pantalica Rock Necropolis, a place that stands like a massive stone beehive pressed against the mountainside, leaving anyone who sees it with chills from both its grandeur and its mystery. Mention Pantalica, and people will immediately recall one of the largest prehistoric burial complexes in the entire Mediterranean, with around 5,000 tombs carved deep into the limestone cliffs. From afar, the tomb openings glimmer in the sunlight like thousands of eyes watching over the valley below. As you walk closer, each tomb's unique shape becomes clearer. Some are square like stone boxes, others rectangular, and the smaller ones are oval, like egg-shaped cavities clinging to the rock face. Step into one of these tombs, and the inside opens up like a man-made cave. Some are even divided into multiple chambers, making it easy to imagine the hard labor ancient people endured while carving them with primitive tools. It is estimated that many of these tombs have existed for nearly 3,000 years, dating back to the Bronze Age, a time when humans were just learning how to tame nature. Back then, the coastal inhabitants of Sicily chose to carve tombs into the cliffs, both to protect the bodies of their loved ones and to keep them safe from wild animals and floods. But history didn't stop there. By the 7th century BC, when the Sicani people settled in the area, many of the older tombs were abandoned. Later, at the beginning of the Roman period, new layers of burials appeared, evidence that Pantalica continued to be used across generations. During the Middle Ages, Muslim settlers discovered this rugged mountain landscape and established a community here, using it as a perfect refuge amid untamed nature. The Hyblaean Valley, where Pantalica is located, was shaped by the Calcanara and Anapo rivers, creating a landscape where cliffs, water, and forest merge beautifully. Walking into this valley, you can feel nature shifting around you. Towering rock walls, dense green forests, and birds calling from above as if guiding you back through ancient time. What's remarkable is that the entire area remains completely wild, untouched by concrete, development, or modern infrastructure. This pristine condition helped Pantalica earn recognition as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2005. Today, the only way to reach Pantalica is on foot, but it's precisely this slow, deliberate journey that makes the experience unforgettable. Each winding path along the cliffs feels like a passageway through layers of history. Standing in the valley and looking up at the giant beehive of 1,000 tombs clinging to the rock wall is enough to give anyone goosebumps. mixed with deep admiration for the hands and minds of ancient people. Many visitors say that walking through the valley feels like traveling backward in time. And perhaps, as you stand before tombs that have rested silently for millennia, surrounded by nature that remains untouched since the beginning, you too may feel time itself gently stepping behind you. So if you ever find yourself in Sicily, let your feet lead you to Pantalica. Who knows, amid this giant stone beehive, you might experience a strange sensation, as if you're exploring the world while also listening to the echoes of history from deep within the cliffside. Isn't that extraordinary? The oldest animal fossil on Earth. If you're someone who loves stories from prehistoric times, someone who enjoys tracing the footsteps of creatures that lived even before the dinosaurs, then the discovery I'm about to share will definitely make you sit up straight in surprise. More than 550 million years ago, when Earth was still shrouded in the darkness of its earliest days, a group of strange organisms quietly stretched themselves beneath the ocean floor. And now, the tiny fossils they left behind have been discovered in a remote region of Canada, opening a window directly into the dawn of life. Specifically, at Mistaken Point Ecological Reserve, one of the most valuable fossil treasure troves on the planet, scientists from the University of Oxford, Cambridge, and Memorial University have uncovered over 100 microscopic fossils of a species known as rangeomorphs. The name may sound unusual, but their appearance is even more distinctive. They look like the fronds of a fern or like modern-day sea pens. What's fascinating is that these fossils are incredibly small. Many specimens are only a few millimeters long, so tiny that you need to examine them closely just to see them. But don't let their size fool you. When fully grown, rangeomorphs could reach up to about 6.5 feet in length, far larger than most people would expect. These organisms lived during the Ediacaran period, from 542 to 635 million years ago, an era considered the dawn of the animal kingdom. In other words, rangeomorphs were among the first complex multicellular organisms on Earth, marking the earliest steps in the history of animal life. According to Dr. Martin Brazier, a member of the research team, these may be the oldest animal fossils ever discovered. To picture how they were preserved, imagine this: soft-bodied creatures living peacefully on the ocean floor hundreds of millions of years ago, suddenly buried by volcanic ash erupting from a nearby island. That scorching ash captured their shapes like a snapshot, preserving the final moment of an ancient world. This discovery not only reinforces earlier theories about the appearance of the first animals, but also helps scientists better understand the dramatic transformation of life during Earth's earliest stages. When we place these fossil fragments into the grand puzzle of evolution, we begin to see how long and extraordinary the journey of life truly is, from tiny fern-like organisms in the deep sea to the vast variety of enormous species that came later. These rangeomorph fossils don't just hold historical significance, they open up entirely new avenues of research into how life formed and developed under harsh primordial conditions. They remind us that before there were forests, before fish swam freely, and long before dinosaurs ruled the earth, there were already organisms quietly weaving the very first threads of life. And if you love exploring ancient mysteries like I do, you can't help but feel a shiver when you realize that what you're looking at is the trace of a creature that lived 500 million years ago. Just an instant in the universe's timeline, yet an entire chapter humanity is still trying to understand. A pair of gold-covered mummies, resting together for 2,000 years in an ancient Egyptian temple. It may sound strange, but yes, even mummies can come in couples. Recently, archaeologists uncovered an incredibly rare discovery in the ancient city of Taposiris Magna, located right in Egypt's Nile Delta. Two mummies, a man and a woman, who had been resting side by side for 2,000 years. At first glance, you'll immediately be struck by the luxuriousness of their burial. Both mummies were carefully embalmed and covered in gold leaf, a treatment reserved only for the most powerful or wealthy individuals of their time. But the story doesn't end there. Archaeologists revealed that the tomb structure where the pair was laid to rest was not completely sealed. Over centuries, water seeped in, causing the bodies to deteriorate. Even so, the remaining details are enough to tell a story of wealth and influence, especially the richly furnished burial goods, including around 200 coins bearing the image of Cleopatra, clearly marking the era in which they lived. On one of the mummies, some of the gold leaf still bears the image of a scarab beetle, an ancient Egyptian symbol of rebirth and divine power. From these clues, experts believe that the couple were likely high-ranking priests, religious figures regarded by ancient Egyptians as intermediaries between the human world and the realm of the gods. They lived during a time of grandeur, carrying with them secrets that even time couldn't fully erase, and the fact that they were buried next to each other suggests that love and power didn't end with a single lifetime. They could stretch across millennia. This mummy couple story naturally makes us wonder, can love truly transcend death? Personally, if I'm being honest, maybe yes, maybe no. Life is unpredictable. Just look at that viral story from China a few years ago. A young couple in love wanted to be together but faced family opposition. So they decided to jump off a bridge together. The girl jumped first, and the guy picked up his sandals and went home. So yes, love in theory is beautiful, but in reality, it can get messy. Still, the discovery at Taposiris Magna shows that love and power can be preserved through time. Even when bodies decay, the meaning of their bond remains, etched into the gold leaf, the coins, and the ancient architecture. Everything left behind tells a story of power, faith, and love, three things that seem different, yet somehow walk together across thousands of years. This discovery not only highlights the Egyptians' remarkable embalming techniques, but also opens a doorway to deeper understanding of ancient Egyptian culture, religion, and society. Seeing this mummy pair lying together after 2,000 years reminds us that love isn't just a fleeting emotion. It can also become an immortal mark in history, inspiring admiration and reflection across the world. So if you're currently in love or searching for your other half, this story may leave you feeling both dreamy and cautious. Because while love can survive the ages, real life still requires a bit of wisdom. Unless you want to walk away with your sandals, like that guy in China. In the end, loving wisely might just be another way to leave a lasting mark in this challenging world, don't you think? The 2-million-year-old skull box of humanity's ancestors. If you're someone who loves exploring human origins and wants to look directly at the earliest traces of our ancestors, then the story of Australopithecus sediba will make you hold your breath from the very first moment. This apes and modern humans. Just hearing that is enough to excite anyone passionate about archaeology, because this is one of the most important clues in understanding how humans evolved over millions of years. What makes this discovery truly remarkable is that studies of the brain, pelvis, hands, and feet of Australopithecus sediba show that they possessed both primitive ape-like features and traits resembling modern humans. This blend of characteristics has led scientists to suspect that Australopithecus walk on two legs and eventually build human civilization. Of course, the discovery story itself is just as dramatic. Part of the skeleton of a boy between 10 and 13 years old, weighing about 60 pounds, was found by the 9-year-old son of a scientist during excavations at Malapa. The image of the boy's remains, showing a striking mix between ape and modern human, quickly made headlines across the scientific world. Not long after, archaeologists uncovered the skeleton of a woman around 30 years old, weighing roughly 73 pounds. Both skeletons were confirmed to be members of the newly identified species Australopithecus sediba. But the cave where these fossils were found held an even deeper mystery. It contained fossils of at least 25 different animal species, including saber-toothed cats, wild cats, brown hyenas, wild dogs, antelopes, and horses. Because of this, scientists believe the site was once a deadly natural trap, where animals and even our ancient ancestors may have fallen in while searching for water. Just imagining that scene is chilling. A remote place where predators and prey alike became sealed together in the same space millions of years ago. Looking at the body structure of Australopithecus sediba, you might be surprised to learn that they walked on two legs like we do, with hips similar to modern humans, yet they still retained primitive features such as long arms and a smaller brain. This mix of traits made them both human-like and distinctly ape-like, a nearly perfect intermediate form in the evolutionary chain. According to Professor Lee Berger of the University of the Witwatersrand, the project's lead researcher, the advanced features found in the brain and body make Australopithecus sediba the strongest candidate for our direct ancestor, possibly an even better fit than Homo habilis, the earliest known species of the human genus. In other words, if you've ever wondered, what did the very first of us look like? Australopithecus sediba is the most vivid answer science can currently offer. That's why this discovery is not just a milestone in archaeology, it opens the door for us to understand our origins more deeply, how our ancestors walked, how they lived, and how their brains began developing from primitive forms. Standing before these 2 million-year-old fossils, we're not just looking at physical evolution, we're witnessing the long, extraordinary journey that led from ancient beings in the wild to us today, curious, intelligent, and endlessly driven to explore. A 1,000-year-old castle beneath a basketball court in England. Have you ever imagined that right beneath an old basketball court in the middle of a city, there could be a 1,000-year-old castle hidden away? If not, then let me take you to Gloucester, England. Because here, an archaeological excavation has brought us an incredibly surprising discovery. The long-lost traces of Gloucester Castle, once home to English royalty during the Middle Ages, which had been forgotten for centuries and only recently revealed. The story begins in the early medieval period, when the Normans conquered England in the 11th century. At that time, Gloucester Castle was built as a fortified stronghold meant to protect power and extend the influence of the regional rulers. Over time, the castle continued to be renovated and expanded, and by the 13th century, it had become an important residence for members of the royal family. You can imagine that in those days, the castle was not only a symbol of authority, but also the center of political and social life in the city. But like many ancient castles, Gloucester eventually fell into decline. From the 15th to the 17th century, most of its stone structures were stripped away to build roads, houses, and other projects in the city center. Only a small portion of the above-ground structures remained, and these were used as the local prison. By 1787, the castle was completely demolished, and the area was converted into farmland. Over time, the castle faded from historical records, as if it had never existed. However, a recent excavation has uncovered findings that have thrilled archaeologists. Beneath layers of earth long forgotten, researchers found trenches and remnants of medieval structures. They believe that some of these remains were once brick-built bridges or raised causeways that crossed defensive moats, critical features for protecting the castle. In addition, a section of a post-medieval wall was identified, likely connected to the gardens that existed on the ruins during the 19th century. What's interesting is that these remains are still located at a relatively shallow depth, allowing archaeologists to observe and study them easily without extensive digging. Thanks to this, we can now see fragments of ancient royal architecture and gain a clearer understanding of how people used the land, reshaped the landscape, and transformed the city over the centuries. A simple basketball court suddenly became a time portal, opening a window into a forgotten chapter of the Middle Ages. This discovery not only excites archaeologists, but also reminds us that history isn't always confined to books or museums. It sometimes lies right beneath our feet. Gloucester is a perfect example. Even modern places like basketball courts or construction sites can hide 1,000-year-old mysteries, waiting for curious eyes to uncover and bring them back to life. I'm sure that if you stood on that basketball court, knowing that beneath the concrete and asphalt were ancient walls, water-filled moats, and brick bridges, you'd feel as though you were stepping into a journey through time, where the past and present meet in the most magical way. And that is exactly the irresistible charm of archaeology. Always surprising, always revealing, and always reminding us to appreciate the layers of history that centuries have left behind. A 2,800-year-old tomb of an Amazon warrior woman in Armenia. We often assume that in the distant ancient past, men were the only fierce warriors, while women were delicate, staying at home to handle small domestic tasks. But reality has proven the opposite. Not only men, but women too could charge into battle, shoot arrows, ride horses, and fight like true heroes. To see the proof, let's travel back more than 2,500 years to an ancient burial ground in Lori Province, Armenia, where archaeologists recently uncovered something that stunned the research community: the remains of a warrior woman buried with numerous valuable artifacts. The burial site, known as Bover contains many graves from the pre-Armenian period, dating roughly from the 8th to 6th centuries BCE. At first, when the research team examined the tomb, they assumed the remains belonged to a woman of high social status. But after analyzing the skeletal structure carefully, they discovered a shocking truth. Her bones were strong and robust, with signs of trauma in multiple areas, something extremely rare for ordinary women of that era. Specialists also found clear evidence that the muscles in her upper body were highly developed, strong enough to pull and release a bow using shoulder power, a defining trait of trained archers. Meanwhile, the structure of her thigh and gluteal muscles revealed that she was very skilled at horseback riding, an essential military skill in ancient warfare. If you imagine her pulling a bowstring across her chest while riding at full speed, you'll instantly see the image of a proud, fierce warrior woman, almost like someone straight out of legend. Even more fascinating is that this area didn't contain only one female warrior. Many other graves, both male and female, showed similar skeletal features, proving that women truly participated in combat rather than staying home as we often assume. At the nearby Karasham site, researchers even discovered 5 male warrior graves with striking similarities, suggesting that infantry and archers during that period may have included both men and women. One detail that sends chills down the spine is the battle injuries found on her body. Deep inside her left knee bone, archaeologists found an iron arrowhead, along with 3 additional wounds elsewhere. These injuries were very likely sustained during combat, suggesting she had faced several enemies at once. Imagine a young woman standing amid a chaotic battlefield, wounded yet still fighting to the end. How could anyone not admire such bravery? Researchers, including specialist Kutaverdian, believe that women like her may have inspired the Amazon warrior legends of Greek mythology, the same Amazons who were said to battle heroes like Hercules and Achilles. This opens up an entirely new perspective on history, that the legendary Amazons may not have been pure myth, but real warriors who once walked the earth, carried real bows, and fought real battles. Looking at her remains, we don't just see a woman from the past, we feel her resilience, strength, and courage echoing across time. And I'm certain that if you stood at the Bover Eye burial site yourself, you would sense a powerful energy from the past, reminding you that some legends begin with real people. A 7,000-year-old mummy in northern Chile reveals secrets of the Chinchorro culture. On May 24th, a group of students on a field trip to the Morro de Arica archaeological site in northern Chile accidentally discovered a 7,000-year-old mummy emerging from the ground. Sounds chilling already, doesn't it? But the reason the body surfaced was completely natural. Just a few weeks earlier, an 8.2 magnitude earthquake had shaken the area, shifting the soil and bringing the ancient remains to the surface, as if history itself wanted to introduce its story to us. As soon as the discovery was made, experts stepped in to investigate. They confirmed that the mummy belonged to the Chinchorro culture, one of the oldest known cultures in Chile. And this was not the first time the Chinchorro people astonished archaeologists. Since the 1920s, Chinchorro sites have been uncovered along the Arica coastline, where they lived by hunting, fishing, and gathering seaweed. But what amazed researchers the most was their unique mummification tradition, completely different from the practices of the famous ancient Egyptians. While the Egyptians only mummified members of the elite, the Chinchorro mummified everyone in their community, adults, children, and even fetuses. To them, it was an act of honoring the dead, a way to preserve the memory and spiritual presence of their ancestors within the community. Imagine it. Thousands of years ago, these people already believed deeply in the spiritual value of preserving the body, without distinctions of wealth or status. How can we not take our hats off to that? Before this most recent finding, archaeologists had already unearthed many Chinchorro mummies, including the 4 oldest pre-Columbian mummies in the world, dating back to around 5000 BCE. But the discovery made by the students only further highlights the Chinchorro culture's significance in human history, proving that this is not just the story of a small culture in Chile, but an important chapter in humanity's understanding of honoring the dead and the tradition of mummification. At present, archaeologists are continuing their excavations in the area. They emphasize that northern Chile must be recognized as a protected cultural heritage zone in order to preserve these priceless historical treasures from the destructive forces of time and nature. Just imagine, amid the dry desert and sudden earthquakes, secrets thousands of years old still lie waiting to be uncovered, ready to share their stories with today's world. With every mummy discovered, we don't just see a body dried by time, we see a culture, a community, a way of life, and an ancient belief system. It makes us wonder, if we ourselves lived in the time of the Chinchorro, would we uphold such traditions and beliefs? And if one day, modern humans were excavated by future archaeologists, what would they understand about us? The appearance of the 7,000-year-old mummy at Morro de Arica is a vivid reminder that history is always waiting to be discovered. And sometimes, all it takes is an earthquake or a curious step to bring us face to face with the past. A 2,000-year-old treasure of gold and gemstones beneath Italy's hot springs reveals the mystery of a giant serpent god. If you think treasure hunting stories only exist in movies, then come with me to the town of San Casciano dei Bagni in Italy, where, at the end of 2024, archaeologists uncovered an entire hidden world buried for more than 2,000 years beneath the misty, steaming ancient hot springs. There, they found a massive collection of treasures so astonishing that it shook the international archaeological community. Bronze statues, gold coins, gemstone jewelry, and even perfectly preserved eggs dating back to the Roman and Etruscan eras. Hearing that, you're probably wondering, why would so many valuables be buried underground in this place? In fact, San Casciano was once a sacred center of worship and healing. Centuries ago, both the Etruscans and the Romans considered the area holy, believing the natural hot springs possessed healing powers. They would throw offerings into the waters, gold, jewelry, and spiritually significant objects as prayers for protection and good health. And now, those offerings are being brought back to light after thousands of years resting beneath the springs. This excavation is especially remarkable because the finds were buried nearly 16 feet underground in a hilltop town located about 100 miles north of Rome. The excavation began in 2019, but the deeper the archaeologists dug, the more extraordinary the discoveries became. In the latest phase, they uncovered thousands of coins, crowns, gold rings, gemstones, and countless bronze statues of both men and women. Each artifact carries a story about the spiritual life of ancient communities, a world where faith and healing were deeply intertwined with the sacred hot springs. But the most stunning discovery of all was a bronze serpent statue nearly 3 feet long, an artifact that left the entire archaeological team speechless. Experts believe the statue may represent Agathos Daimon, the serpent deity of Greek mythology, revered as a guardian of hot springs and a bringer of good fortune and prosperity. Even more astonishing, this statue is the largest representation of the serpent god ever found, far bigger than the smaller examples displayed in the British Museum or the National Archaeological Museum in Naples. Just imagine it, discovering an enormous statue of a divine serpent right at the crossroads between two great ancient cultures, the Etruscans and the Romans, is like uncovering a missing piece of ancient religious history. Judging by the sheer quantity and variety of the artifacts, it's clear that San Casciano was not just a healing site, it was one of the region's major spiritual centers. The treasures cast into the waters were not mere offerings for health, but symbols of devotion, hope, and reverence for the gods. Today, as each artifact resurfaces after millennia underground, San Casciano is quickly becoming a new global hotspot for archaeology. These discoveries not only reconstruct the spiritual life of ancient civilizations, but also open countless new research pathways for scholars in the future. What do you think? A treasure buried for more than 2,000 years and still perfectly preserved? Could this be proof of a once glorious civilization that thrived here? Let me know your thoughts by leaving a comment below this video. A 13,000-year-old giant skeleton found right on a family farm. One seemingly ordinary day in Seymour, Indiana, the Skepman family experienced a full-on shock while digging a drainage trench on their property. At first, they assumed they had hit yet another pile of cow bones, just like many times before. But as they dug deeper, something extraordinary began to reveal itself. What appeared before them was a massive femur measuring over 4 feet long, dating back 13,000 years, far too large to belong to any farm animal. Alongside it was a huge tusk, resembling an elephant's but far larger. At that moment, everyone knew they were dealing with something far from ordinary. They immediately contacted archaeologists, who quickly arrived at the scene. As the excavation expanded, more and more bones surfaced. A jawbone filled with large teeth, upper leg bones, vertebrae, joints, and even part of a skull. The tusk, though broken into 2 pieces, was confirmed by experts to represent only 1/3 of its original length, meaning this creature once carried tusks long enough to make you look up in awe. After assembling and analyzing the bones, scientists identified the remains as belonging to a mastodon, an ancient member of the Mammalidae family, closely related to modern elephants but distinct from mammoths. Mastodons roamed the Earth from about 4 million years ago until their extinction several thousand years ago. Unlike the towering woolly mammoths, mastodons were stockier, with uniquely shaped teeth designed for crushing branches and a far more muscular build. The mastodon discovered on the Shepman farm is estimated to have weighed around 6 tons and to have died at 40 to 50 years old, essentially a strong, fully mature individual of the Ice Age. At 13,000 years old, the remains date back to the end of the last Ice Age, a period when early humans and giant prehistoric animals frequently crossed paths in the wild. But what makes this story even more meaningful is the family's decision afterward. Even though the discovery sat on private land and legally belonged to them, Joe Shepman and his son Brad chose not to keep it for themselves. Instead, they donated the entire mastodon skeleton to the Indiana State Museum. Their reason was simple, yet deeply heartfelt. It's wonderful to think that a child visiting the museum in Indianapolis can look at these bones and this tusk and know they were found right here at home. You might be wondering, what's the significance of finding a mastodon skeleton? Well, this is far more than an exciting archaeological discovery. It serves as a bridge between the past and the present, between humans and nature. It helps us understand how life existed in prehistoric times, how colossal creatures survived and adapted to the harsh climate of the Ice Age. As you can see, each discovery among these 12 archaeological mysteries is like an incomplete piece of the vast puzzle of human history. They challenge everything we think we know, forcing scientists to question hypotheses once considered certain, while also opening new doors for us to explore the origins, culture, and intelligence of our ancestors. Some of these mysteries we can explain, but others remain unresolved, sparking the imagination to soar. And it's precisely these mysteries that give archaeology its irresistible appeal, where every brick, every bone fragment, and every artifact has the potential to change the way we understand history and even ourselves. Just one encounter with these discoveries is enough to make you realize that human history is never static. Every passing day brings new secrets waiting to be uncovered, leaving us both amazed and hungry for more knowledge, right? So, which discovery impressed you the most among these? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future discoveries. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.